Bat family, welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Make sure you visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support it, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, a big old thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. There are a couple of y'all we want to get back on the show. Don't think we've forgotten about you. We haven't. It's just, a lot going on. So we will get some more patrons joining us on the show. I think once things settle down on my side, I'm going to take the blame for this. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for other shows to enjoy, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. I think I did on the last episode, but I'm going to give him another shout out because he just published his first episode, Michael Lyons and Scott Hopkins' new show, From Pencils to Pixels, the Animation Celebration Podcast. They just published their first real episode, not the trailer episode, like yesterday. And me and Brendan were just talking about it because we were listening to it today. It's super fun. They talk about their top 5 animated films. So go check out Michael and Scotty's show, From Pencils to Pixels. You can find it at rf4rm.com or search for it wherever you get this show because they're all part of the network. As always, I'm Andy DiGenova. You probably know that. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, this is a listener request, y'all. This is something that you guys have wanted us to do, and I think it was our old pal Stuart from Guernsey who writes us almost every week. Hi, Stuart. He's the one who reminded us about this, and then quite a few other people were like, yeah, do that. And we're like, this is actually a very easy episode to do, and that is we're going to rank the live-action Batman films. So we've all got our rankings, and then I'm really excited to talk about the listener rankings because you guys voted, and it's fun to see how that turned out. So, good idea for an episode, and it's a great way to ramp up to the release of the new Batman film, The Batman, which is literally just, 2 weeks? Not even. Shit. A week and a half? Week and a half away.
Close.
Oh my God, it's going to be here before we know it.
Short month of February.
Yeah, that's true. And who is that voice? Nobody's been introduced yet. Who is that? I'm just kidding. Everybody knows you.
I was going to chime in and back you up on the From Pencils to Pixels too, because it is really good. So.
Yeah, it's really fun. I was listening to it today. Actually, it was good, and I expected these choices, but I liked your response because we love Scott Hopkins because he marches to the beat of his own drummer, and he likes what he likes.
Actually, just very quickly before we get into the show proper, funny story. I was listening to it at home here, and Jess had to go out quickly somewhere this morning, and I didn't realize she was listening to it in the car.
Oh, nice.
So when she got home, she was downstairs, and I was coming downstairs, and I'd hit pause on mine, and literally where I hit pause, I could hear it continue downstairs, and I'm like, racing, I'm like, what are you listening to? And we were listening to it separately from each other. And when we got home, when she got home, when I came downstairs, we were literally at the exact same point.
Wow.
In the podcast. It was freaky. It was really cool.
God. You guys are meant to be. You're so in
right?
sync. And the bonus is that Michael got 2 downloads from the Lowe family.
He did.
So if you could have Henry downloaded on his, phone or whatever.
Cellular device.
Yeah, so you get 3 for Michael.
He's got his little toy phone. It's one of the old toy pull-along dial phones. I'm not sure if you can get podcasts on it, but I'll have a look.
Okay, try to. And make him download Holy BatCast as well, so he can hear Uncle Andy's voice. I want him to be familiar with me.
And then he can buy his Manscaped stuff as well, which I'm sure we'll get to.
I'm sure he can. Anyway, Brendan's here, obviously,
Hello.
The other person who's been so polite, hasn't said shit. It's Jamie. Hey, Jamie.
I haven't said anything because I have a headache from the 2-day bender I've been on.
Oh, man, that's right. You were sending some funny messages, and we're like, oh, hey, Jamie, how's it going? And you're like, sorry, birthday weekend, so...
My wife is spoiling me to death with, hey, let's go to this brewery and barbecue place. And then I'm there for 3 hours talking to the bartender, and there's a guy standing up at the bar wearing a Marvel t-shirt with a Spider-Man symbol tattoo on his right forearm. I'm like, you must like comic books. Yes, I do. And that became another 45-minute conversation. drinking the whole time. I've been drinking for most of today, starting at lunch until now. So I'm kind of tore up. So, if at any point I just kind of fade out of this episode, it was just know that my liver finally gave out and it was too much for me.
Wake up, Jamie. Wake up. Have a coffee while you're at it. Like,
I'm currently drinking Guinness Nitro cold brew coffee. So.
Really? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Okay, well, great. Keep it going.
I just found it today. We went to Walmart. Okay, dumb side tangent. There is this thing that the Cup Noodle Company makes. It's a stir fry noodle and it's spicy garlic chicken. And 4 of the 5 people that live in my house are obsessed with this. So like 5 of these things get eaten a day. So I have to keep going to Walmart to buy them because they're cheaper at Walmart than anywhere else. And we went in there today and they had, I bought all of them. I'm just like taking my arm back behind the shelf and like scooting them into the cart. But we just happened to walk down the beer aisle. I'm like, I've never seen this before. She's like, do you want it? I was like, can I have it? She said yes. So here we are.
Okay, great. Well, happy birthday, I guess I should say that.
Well, it's not yet. Don't make me any older than I have to be.
Well, for what, 2 more days, close. I think? 21st?
As we record, this is Saturday night at Monday is my birthday.
Yeah. So
got bad news for you, mate. It's less than 24 hours away where I am.
It doesn't count.
Yeah, but you have to understand how this works. You did this to my wife a couple weeks ago because her birthday is exactly 2 weeks before mine. 2 weeks before mine. And you're like, happy Australian birthday. I'm like, no, by Australian time, she was actually born on the 8th, not the 7th. So
yeah, exactly.
Even though the dates may align, by your time, she actually was born that day. So
awesome. Well, happy birthday on Monday in advance from us, from the whole Holy BatCast family. And then Tuesday, fingers crossed, there'll be another big birthday. So
I still say you should go a day early.
No, man, 2/22/22. How could we pass that up?
That's pretty cool.
Come on.
All right, I'll give you that.
That's good, right? So exciting. So yes, this is the last podcast I get to record without kids. This is it. It's a moment in time, guys.
Enjoy it.
I am.
Enjoy it.
I am. I'm doing the best I can. It's our last weekend without kids, so it's gonna be crazy. So exciting. Anyway, that is coming, guys. So hooray! Can't wait for that. Before we get to the main event, though, as Brendan said, we got to give a little shout out to Manscaped, our sponsor, manscaped.com. They're awesome. Their products are awesome. And they're so nice that they give all the listeners of Holy BatCast 20% off and free shipping. So use the code BATSCAPED for all your Manscaped products. And I got another message from one of our good pals. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so I won't just in case. But another one of our pals from the podcast, he sent me like the screenshot of the order. He goes, guess what? Ordered some Manscaped. No, it was actually the box. The box had already arrived. He's like, guess what I ordered? I'm like, good for you, man. That's awesome. So enjoy those products, and I hope your wife enjoys them too. It just so happens they're trying to conceive, so maybe this will help things along. I don't know.
Man, it did get personal.
It did. But yeah, so Manscaped.
Send your photos of that.
Oh, well, I don't need, I mean, I'll look at them like as a friend, but you don't need to. Don't feel pressured.
No, of course.
Yeah.
No.
But just like as a interested party, I'm happy to look.
Well, the 3 of us have conceived children, so our feedback,
yeah,
we can provide feedback.
We can help, right? Just like FYI, not the belly button. That's not going to get the job done. Not there.
Oh, good Lord.
Anyway, you get your Manscaped products, get your trimmers, get all your stuff, get your lotion, your deodorant, your boxers, get the whole little combo pack. You won't regret it. I know the 3 of us love our stuff. I hope that our listeners who've already ordered it, I hope you guys have been happy with your stuff. But I'll tell you, said it before, but I swear, it took me forever to order Manscaped because I was like, oh, I'll just use my trimmer from Target. It's fine. It was only $20. But guess what? When you buy a $20 trimmer, every time oh my God, like every time, just blood everywhere. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was worth it. Like I had to suffer for my art, but I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. And there was. I pulled the trigger on Manscaped. And here's the thing. It wasn't even that much more than the Target trimmer, but it made all the difference in actually what it did. I have not bled since I have bought Manscaped. And I'm not saying that because they're paying me to. I swear to God. I would have told you that before they ever called us. So you still get a
Not
great.
sure why you would have. It would have been an awkward conversation.
I don't know how it would have come up, but you never know. You never know how these things go. But yeah, the fact that like somehow whatever they did to design their trimmer to make it super easy to use and like it reduces nicks. Again, for me, I don't think I've had a nick since I've used it, which is amazing. It just makes things go a lot easier. So use Manscaped, use that promo code BATSCAPED. And I don't think you'll regret it. So everybody out there with your Manscaped products, enjoy. And if you're still on the fence, pull the trigger and use Batscaped, because not only do you get some cool stuff, you also are supporting the show. And if you love this show, you don't want to become a patron, that's okay. I understand. You got things to do. Buy a little something for yourself, and you're helping us out in the process. So please and thank you. Check that out. Let's move forward. Let's talk about some Batman movies, because we love doing that. It's what we do anyway. And like I said, our pal Stuart reminded us, hey, once upon a time, you guys talked about ranking the live-action Bat films. And I know we have done it one way or the other, but again, it was really quick, sort of half-assed when someone asked us in the Wayne Manor mailbox. So we're going to dedicate a whole episode to it. We're going to share our rankings of the live-action Bat films. So we love it, but no Mask of the Phantasm. But we're going to do that, and then I'm going to share with you how you guys voted. And I appreciate everybody who voted. I loved seeing the very interesting variety of responses. I don't think any two were the same. It's crazy. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Let's take a look back and rank the live-action Batman films. We're gonna do this just like we do when we do like our best of the year on Real Fans. So we're just gonna do round robin. We're gonna start at 11, work our way up to 1, and we'll chat as we go. So we'll start with number 11. Jamie, what's the bottom for you?
Surprising no one, Batman and Robin, 1997. I know people have tried to make the case for this. I know people have certain measured affections for this, be it nostalgia from seeing it at a young age or what have you, but I carry none of that. Of the 11 movies that were to choose from on this list, this is the only one that I hate. And I continue to hate it, and I will continue to hate it for the rest of my days.
But you will watch it again for the show if I ask.
You'd like to think that. You got me to do a commentary. That was enough.
25th anniversary this year.
If you all, Brendan has already volunteered to sit in on that episode for me while I do a completely different episode. This is listen to the commentary. I mean, I said all I had to say about that movie when we did the commentary a couple years back.
But that was 5 years ago, because we did that for the 20th
Oh
anniversary.
my God, it has been 5 years. I drank during that commentary, which is very rare for me. I drank for that and for Batman Forever. Yeah. All right.
Well, I don't drink, and I also, from memory, I was up at 5 a.m. to do it, so...
Well, I was up. It was morning for me, too, because I was still in China, and I was like, well, morning drinking, so be it. That was for Batman Forever, not Batman and Robin, but still.
Yeah.
All right. Not a huge surprise. Brendan, what's your number 11?
Just before I say my number 11, I just do want to put it out there and have on the record that, Andy, I know there's at least 2 that you and I are going to disagree on. So let's just, let's just be nice and kind to each other. Let's just...
Can you?
Our lists are our lists.
Can you do that?
Of course I can.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
It's nothing but love. But I know there's 2 we're going to disagree on. But anyway, in a ranking that will surprise no one, my number 11 is also Batman and Robin. I don't hate it as much as Jamie does, but it's certainly a struggle. Out of all the live-action Batman movies, it's the one that I struggle to sit through the most. Funnily enough, like less than a year ago, when I had that 6 weeks off when Henry was first born, I went back and actually did like a live-action Batman movie marathon. I'd never done it before because it wasn't long after Zack Snyder's Justice League had come out. So I was like, well, there's a new one. I've never gone back and watched all of them in order before, so let's do it. And I did. And yeah, Batman and Robin was out of all of them. It was just the one I was the most bored through. I was looking at my phone the most. I wanted it to finish the most. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not really much that you can say about it that hasn't already been discussed. But it's the least enjoyable out of all of them for me.
All right. Well, I want to go on record with something before I share my list. Is that we did 11 of these movies. And even the ones I don't love, even the ones I kind of dislike, I also still kind of like because they're still Batman
That's
movies.
true.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
not a movie on this list that I wouldn't just randomly put on any day of the week. Any of them.
Yeah.
And I do. And I have. Obviously, I have my preferences. But, like, you know, it's like pizza and sex. Even when it's bad, it's Batman. It's still kind of good, right? Like, eh. So, I just say that. Like, is yes, I rank
Do you
them.
have a point?
It's like I did rank them, and yeah, I mean, my bottom two are going to surprise no one, but like, do I still occasionally pop them in? Yeah, I do, because it's Batman, and I'll take Batman any which way but loose. So anyway, I'll say that my number 11. We've talked about it in the past. My number 11 is Batman Forever. It's the one I like the least. It is the one I am least likely to put in, but I still will on occasion. And we don't have to go over why I don't love it. I don't. I don't think it's a particularly good movie, but again, I get it. I get the people who like it. It's fine. Y'all know I don't like it. For everybody who loves it, God bless. It's just not. It's just, for me, it is my least favorite of all 11. And again, shouldn't be a shock. So I'll just say that. Number 10, Jamie.
My number 10 is Batman Forever.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, listen, I like the movie. I really do. And I know you've made your case in the past that it's kind of the same movie as Batman and Robin, and your point is valid. The structure and the concept and the plot and everything is unbelievable, uncannily similar, actually. But there's just something about this movie, be it tone, even though you think the tone is roughly the same. I mean, I just see it differently than you do. And this one, even though it does have so much of the hokiness, the campiness, the silliness, the Schumacherness, if you will, for lack of something better to call it in this term, this one works on at least a couple of levels for me where Batman and Robin does not. So I still enjoy this movie. I recognize that it's, not by any means the cream of the crop out of any live action Batman films that you would discuss, at least not in my case or your case, or probably not. Well, maybe in Brendan's case. I don't know. I'm not sure what his number one is. This might be his number one, but this one I can watch, and there'll be a few parts that'll just have me like groan or roll my eyes, but I still kind of enjoy the movie. I think it has enough good, solid moments in it that makes it a worthwhile venture, but it is not a priority for me to put in and watch.
All right. Brendan, you're number 10.
My number 10 is the theatrical version of Justice League. It's a movie that when it first came out, we raved about it on this show. We'd go back and listen to the tape. We did. And I still think it's a decent live action version of a Justice League cartoon. But obviously everything that surrounds that movie, the fact that we've seen the true version of what we should have always gotten, it's pulled it down significantly. It's the bottom of my DCEU ranking because of that as well. Since having Zach's version come out, I've had no desire to put this movie in. And I guess it'll come up later on potentially, but it's like the ultimate version of Batman versus Superman. I haven't watched the theatrical since the Ultimate Edition became available. Why would I? There's a better version of the same movie. So yeah, it's not good, and knowing, it's hard to disconnect from all the behind the scenes stuff and everything that we know and everything with Joss and stuff. And it's just like, it's so tainted now, that any enjoyment that I used to have, enjoying it back in the day, anytime before essentially Zach's version became available, it's just gone. Fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. So yeah, it's right down the bottom there, unfortunately.
All right. My number 10 is Batman and Robin. It's funny because I put Forever down slightly below Batman and Robin, and I think that there's a number of reasons for that. I know that I'm a little weird in that way, but I think it's because for me, Batman and Robin is somehow more consistent than Batman Forever. It's a little less messy. Batman Forever, I think, is a very messy movie, which I think is, to Jamie's point, why he's like, well, yeah, there's some better stuff in there. I'm like, yeah, but it's so all over the damn place. And we all know it's, it got re-edited and everything. And it's just, I think it's just kind of messy. And so I feel like, and by the time Batman and Robin came out, my heart had already been broken by Batman Forever. So I hold Batman Forever responsible for that, not Batman and Robin. Because at that point, we all should have known what we were getting. And if you didn't, that's on you for not paying attention. And so I always said Batman and Robin, or Batman Forever, is like watching a preschool burn down. It's tragic. Batman and Robin is like watching a clown college burn down. It's hilarious.
It's a hell of an analogy.
So Batman and Robin, yeah, I somehow get just a little more enjoyment out of it. But again, I don't put these in all that often. And when I do, it's always as background noise. It's not like, oh, I'm going to sit and focus and watch this and really dig into the nuance. It's like, no, it's like a perfect thing to put on in the background. Either of them, honestly, where it's like, oh, I'm cleaning the living room, or I'm doing the dishes, or I'm folding laundry, where it's like, it's kind of fun to have it on in the background. But yeah, so Batman and Robin, number 10. Number 9, Jamie.
My number 9 is the 2017 theatrical Justice League. I still enjoy this movie. I have not watched it since Zack Snyder's version was released 11 months ago, but I can see at some point down the road, a month from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, whatever it may be, where I feel like watching some of my favorite characters brought to life on a screen, but I don't want either the time commitment involved with Zack Snyder's Justice League, or I just don't want to be that heavy. And to me, it's a simple, relatively quick by comparison to so many of these other films. And it's not as deep. It's just more of a fun roller coaster ride of a movie than it is the epic, grand, unbelievable movie that Zack Snyder's Justice League was. So it just, even though its DNA kind of says it's the same movie, we all know it's not. I mean, even in the discussion that we had last year about it, even some of the stuff that was kept just because of the toning and the music and the pacing and stuff like that just completely changed how it was viewed and how it was perceived. And that's not a bad thing in this case. And I know that it's for those of us out there that love Zach, it was a tough pill to swallow that this film happened the way that it did and everything. I get that. But that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy this film on its own merits, even if I find it to be drastically inferior to the version that we eventually got or should have gotten in the first place.
Well, it's funny because I'm sorry?
I said he's definitely got a point with the runtime. Like, if I were to pop it back in, that would probably be the reason why I've like, you know what? I feel like watching some Justice League, but I don't have 4 hours.
Yeah.
That would probably be my main reason for ever watching it again.
Right. Here's the Cliff's Notes. I don't have 4 hours to commit.
Yeah.
Or again,
exactly.
I'm folding laundry. I just want a little Justice League in the background. There's a way to do it. But it's funny because there, something you said, Jamie, it's like, it's even though the blueprint or the DNA is the same, it's a different movie. That's why we have both versions on this list. We didn't lump them together because they are so drastically different. I think that you can't really make the argument that it's the same movie, as opposed to like BVS. I didn't put theatrical versus ultimate cut because it is the same movie. It's just obviously the ultimate cut is the superior version, but it's the same movie. They were both Zach's cuts. that one I didn't feel like we needed to break out twice, but Justice League absolutely did. I'm going to jump ahead just because this is also my number 9, and I honestly agree with everything that both of you guys said about this one. Is I still don't hate it the way I'm supposed to as a good fan, so I apologize. I guess I should hate it more. But to Brendan's point, like, have I really put it in since Zack Snyder's version came out? No, I really haven't. I'm not opposed to it, like you said. If I want some background noise, if I want to watch a quicker, breezier version, I can watch this one. I wouldn't be mad at myself for watching it. I do like that first opening Batman scene. Like, that's to me the biggest loss with this version. But
Agreed.
it's so low because when you put the two next to each other, I'm always going to pick the better version. I'm always going to pick Zack Snyder's Justice League. And so it almost makes this one obsolete. So that is, I don't hate it. I could watch it and I'd probably still be entertained by it. But yeah, like, do we even really need it anymore? Probably not. So, sorry, I jumped ahead with my number 9. What's your...
Oh, good. Makes sense.
Yeah, so we're all, I will say with our listener votes, the bottom was very consistent. Anyway, so what's your number 9, Brendan?
This is where I may lose some people, and I do apologize. I don't hate this movie. I just get more enjoyment of watching the other ones ahead of it. My number 9 is Batman Returns. I know, like, when I was physically looking at my list yesterday, I felt bad that it was down so low. But then I looked at all the other ones. It's like, I'm gonna watch these ahead of it. So it kind of, unfortunately, has to land where it lands. I know, Andy, in particular, you have a lot of affection for this movie. And I get it. Like, you're that couple of years older than me. That's why I think I feel the way I do about Batman Forever and the way you feel about Batman Returns. But I don't know. For me, I feel like Tim was more interested in telling the story of Max Schreck instead of focusing on you've got Batman, Penguin, and Catwoman, and all of them kind of play second fiddle to Max Schreck. Hearing the original, I am so desperate to go back in time and have Batman 2 be the Batman 2 that Sam Hamm had written. Like, that movie interests me so much more than what we got. But in saying that, there's still a lot to love about this movie, and there's a lot that I do love about this movie. Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman to this day is still untouchable, I feel, in terms of the best live action version of that character up to this point. It's certainly not going to win on the costume side of things, but I don't know what sort of performance Zoe Kravitz is going to put forward. It could be the best ever, but Michelle's costume, I think, will forever be the standard of Catwoman live action costumes. It's phenomenal. I love Keaton in this movie. Danny DeVito gives the performance of a lifetime as the Penguin. It's really cool. But there's just other things that drag it down. Like I said, the Max Schreck thing. I think the other thing is the lack. It's a sequel to Batman '89, but it could be in a completely different Earth. To me, it looks like it was shot inside on a soundstage as well. As opposed to sort of out in the open on the street. I mean, it was a backlot, but still on an actual physical street like Batman '89 was. It's a sequel that feels very disjointed from what came before it, aside from a couple of returning characters and a name drop of Vicky Vale. So yeah, I know there's some people out there in fandom who really, really don't like this movie, and it could have potentially been at the bottom of their list, but again, I feel bad for it physically being as low as it is, but the things that are above it, I would reach for on the shelf before reaching for Batman Returns. But I do have a lot of love for it, which will come into play, I guess, later in the year when we talk about it for its 25th anniversary.
I'm not quite ready to talk about the movie itself yet, but I do just want to say, to me, love or hate this movie, it's a textbook guide of how to make a movie with a really dark tone without allowing the dark tone to consume the entire movie. If that makes any sense. We'll get more involved in that conversation as it comes up again here and as we discuss it for its anniversary later on. But I think that part of this movie is what makes it brilliant and what makes Burton brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie, and that's cool. But like, what's funny is, again, going by looking at all the listener votes and everything, like, I love this movie. I'm not alone. There are a lot of people who love this movie. You don't love this movie, and there are some Batman fans who straight up hate this movie. They're not alone either. So like, I know this is one of the more divisive ones. I don't think it's as divisive now as it was in 1992. But still, like, the fact that you've got it this low, that's representative of a subset of our listeners.
But I genuinely feel bad for having it so low as well. Like, when I look at my list as something that's just like, that's not right. But like I said, when I look at all the other ones, because I did my list on Letterboxd, so I can physically see them, and I'm like, no, that's actually where it lands for me. But I do feel bad about it because I do like that movie. But as you said, like, they're Batman movies, I like them regardless. It's just, we've got to rank them, and that's where this one lands.
Yeah, I really should have done this on Letterboxd, but I still haven't fully integrated that into my life. So I put it just on a Word document. Like, yeah, that would have been a good idea. Do it on Letterboxd. Oh well. No, I
think Letterboxd owes Preston Willis some residual monies here, because so many people that I know have gotten back into or just straight up into Letterboxd because of his suggestion of it.
Yeah, I think it's really Hunter and Preston were the ones who finally pushed me into it. And I think even Brendan did too. It was the three of you guys who were going, "Oh, it's actually really nice."
Years, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." But I still have to go, "Oh wait, I just watched a movie yesterday. I forgot to put it on Letterboxd." So I'm not like used to it yet, but I'm trying to get better at it.
It'll definitely help you come the end of the year for your best of. When you do it for real fans, because it's there in chronological order.
Right.
But anyway, let's keep ranking.
All right. So, I mean, but to your point, like, the only ones I can say I don't like, and again, I'm using air quotes, are 10 and 11. Like, from 9 up, I like them all to one degree or another. It's just splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah.
So now we're on number 8, Jamie.
Okay. I want to give the caveat right now that from 8 down to 1, with 9, 10, and 11 being out of the way, from 8 down to 1, I love every one of these movies.
Well, that's kind of the point I was getting at, right? Is I'm like, I
want that to be clear.
Yeah.
So even though, like Brendan, very much Returns was that one for me too. And again, it's not quite here yet, but I thought to myself, I have to like this movie better than this. And then, like Brendan, I looked at the others and I'm like, nope, I like that one better. Nope, I like that one better. And the fact of the matter is, I just love so many of these movies. This was kind of difficult for me, even though I was putting it where it belonged for my list. I have love for every one of these movies from here up. The other ones, I hated one. I liked the other two. But from here on up, it's nothing but love for me. It's just something I happen to love more than others. So I just want to get that caveat out of the way.
I get it.
My number 8 is Batman the movie, 1966. And I sort of owe this movie a little bit of credit in one department, in that I was one of those back in 1988, whenever, I really got, Dark Knight Returns, I think, got to be a thing with me in 87, 88. And then, Batman 89, of course, was its thing, which fed some out of the Dark Knight. And it made me brush aside Batman 66, thinking, oh, that was stuff for when I was a kid. It's no good now. It's not relevant. It's not pertinent. It's not valid. I was one of those people. I hated on 66. And then like a couple years after 89 came out, of course, bat craze was still pretty, prevalent in our society and pop culture. This wound up showing on a TV channel, Fox or whatever it was, on a Saturday afternoon, probably.
Oh man, it was on Fox on the weekend afternoons for a long time. I bet you that's it.
Okay, so that's probably where I caught it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I would have been probably 16-ish when that happened. And I watched it, and it was cheesy and it was hokey, but I enjoyed it somehow. Like it made me feel good. Like I was back in my childhood in my grandma's TV room watching it, with her on a weekday afternoon or something. It felt okay. It still didn't quite fit my mold of Batman at that time, but eventually this kind of is what opened the door for me to re-embrace 1966. So for that reason, I have a lot of love for this movie, and for the fact it's just a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
There's some guano loco stuff going on with this, dehydrator thing and the plot against the UN, but you get the four main Bat villains. You get my favorite, no disrespect to Eartha Kitt or Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather is my favorite Catwoman from this era because of this movie and how much I liked her in this movie. And all the other villains are great. And of course, West and Ward are always great in character here. And I just have such a good time whenever I watch this movie. And I don't watch it often, probably once every, 4 or 5 years, maybe 3, 4 at the best. But it's just a feel good movie. Like it makes me smile, and it just kind of, it's like a comfort food kind of a movie for me. So I have a lot of love for it in that respect.
Then why do you have it so low, jerk?
Because
how dare you?
I like other ones more. I just, that's how it goes.
I'm not sure where you're at, Andy, but if I could maybe jump ahead, because it's my number 8 as well.
Well, perfect. Please continue.
So I think for me, the big part of this one is, I grew up on this movie. Like, I think I even said it was at our last episode when we were talking about the villains. Like, I recorded this off television with my mum one night in 1989. I was allowed to sit up as a 5-year-old and watch it. And it was, when I think of Batman 66, to this day, I think of this movie rather than the TV show, because for the longest time, this was the only part of Batman 66 media that was also available.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Buy,
Yep. And what's so funny is I'm sorry to interrupt, so many, I see so many people do that too, where, like, say it's the anniversary of the show, they'll tweet out something from the movie. Yeah. They always sort of, I'm like, oh, actually, Lee Merriweather was never Catwoman in the show, guys. But I think a lot of people do that. And I think that's, your point is super valid. Is that this was the only Batman 66 that was readily available while the show was in rights hell forever.
Yeah, and it's, as Jamie said, and we said when we were talking about the villains a couple of episodes ago, you get the big four, you get all the action and adventure that's in an episode of the TV show with a bigger budget. Mm-hmm. You get four Bat vehicles. It's a really, really fun ride. And I will say too, it's kind of like Jamie, this one and the next 3 that I talk about, and this is another advantage, not to go on a letterbox tangent again, but because you give them your star ratings, the next 3 after this, including this one, they're all my 4 stars. You can look at your ranking by going the number of stars you've given it. So it's kind of gone from 1 to 2 to 3, and these are all my 4s. So again, it's sort of like if I'm looking at my shelf, this is how I have to decide now between, because they've all got the same star rating. It's like the old, as Andy's always done, if I'm looking at my shelf, which ones am I going to reach for? And this Batman 66 movie is such a good time. And for years and years and years, even not just talking about there not being Batman 66 media, but just there not being a lot of Batman media in general. I recorded this off TV in 1989. This is the only Batman video I had for the longest time, and eventually I got Batman 89. We recorded off TV, and they were the only 2 Batman movies I had. And if I'd say to Mum, I'm watching Batman, she'd go, which one? I'd be like, oh, the one with Catwoman in it. Because that was, it was all I had. So this movie kept me a Batman fan for a very, very long time as a young kid. So it's a really, really fun, just perfect time capsule, and it's everything that's great about the TV series. Like I said, just all crammed into one 120-minute movie with a bigger budget. It's great. I love this movie.
And shout out to bat repellent shark spray.
Yep.
It gave us
That's
that.
where that comes from.
Gave us
Yep.
that.
That
Yeah.
shark scene is still hysterical. Every time I laugh out loud watching that scene.
Holy sardine.
But I mean, I will echo both of your disclaimer is like, at this point, you know, I really, really like all of these movies, starting with 8 all the way up to 1. So it is splitting hairs. This is mine where I was like, oh wow, is it really this low? And then, like you guys said, I looked and I was like, yeah, I think it is. So my number 8 is The Dark Knight Rises. I do really like it. I really like the movie. I think that Tom Hardy and Anne Hathaway are both giving amazing performances. They're so darn good and entertaining, and the movie is really, really good. I think it's just a couple of those weird choices that are made in the story that we've talked about endlessly, both on this show and just as fans and on Twitter and everything. There's just a couple of those little things that where I'm like, oh, what? This could have worked a little better, and then why'd you make this choice? And just those little tweaks that I think could have elevated the movie. But those aside, I still really like this movie. I think it's great. Again, I think the cast is great. I have a great time watching it. So it's not even one that I like actively dislike, like some fans do. I really, really like it. I just think that, I really wish that Nolan had stuck the landing a little more solidly than what this movie does. I still think it's a very good ending to the trilogy, but there are just a couple of those things that, kind of just gnaw at me a little bit that keep me from putting it higher. But I still really like it. Happy to watch it. Super entertained by it. But yeah, it's my number 8. All right.
It's my number 7.
Okay, well, great. You can continue.
If it's worth talking, similar to what you said, Andy. It's a very, very well-made movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Nolan movie. It is. It's beautiful to look at. The acting's incredible. The score's amazing. Yeah, like the story does kind of let it down a little bit for me as well. Like you kind of look at it and go, really? Like that's what you've decided to do? Oh, okay. The reason that this movie's, I mean, I say it's so low, but it's pretty much literally middle of the pack. For me though, is I just wish Batman was in it more.
Mm-hmm.
Like this movie would probably be it would definitely be much, much higher if Batman was in it. Like it's almost a 3-hour Batman movie.
Can I jump in a sec?
Yeah,
is
of course.
to take your criticism of Batman Returns and apply it here. For some reason, this movie is way more interested in John Blake than it is in Batman. And that's an odd choice.
It really is. Like, I think, it was on a Fat Man on Batman years ago. They worked out, and I think, don't quote me on this, but I think for almost a 3-hour movie, Batman in costume is in this movie for like half an hour.
It's very low.
Really,
I had
really low.
I had that info somewhere. We've reviewed it on this show multiple times, but yes, it's very low.
Yeah. Like for a Batman movie that was the end to, at that point was the ultimate version of Batman in live action. It was following The Dark Knight, and everyone knows what that movie is, and it's just very odd. And yeah, I just wish Batman was in it more, and it does bring it down quite a bit, the fact that he's not. So yeah.
Well, all right, fair enough. All right, Jamie, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Batman Returns.
All right.
And yeah, it's just, how did this wind up so low? I love this movie. I watch this movie at least once a year because it's on Cheerathon for me, and because I really like the themes and the tones and the characters. I like almost every single thing about this movie, but it's another one of those. Just there's other ones that I love more, and that's not to say that I don't love this one, because does it feel more perfect than that Batmobile driving around in the snow, or just the general decor of Gotham when they're in the square to light the tree, or any of that stuff, or as Brendan said, DeVito for his long and illustrious and great career. And I've always been a fan of his, going back from when I was a little kid and my parents or grandparents would be watching Taxi and I'd be watching it with them. I remembered him from way back in those days even. It great. And, Shrek is he's bonkers and he's so far over the top, but you know what? That's why so many of us are fans of Christopher Walken, is his ability to deliver that type of a performance and not to really, I mean, I can speak for myself and nobody else. I don't groan at Walken's performances, even when he is chewing scenery left and right. Pfeiffer is Catwoman. I mean, it speaks for itself. I don't even need to make any further comment about there. People ask me, knowing how much I love Batman '89 after this came out, what did you think of the movie? People would say that they've heard bad things, or all that stuff, and I'd say I really think the first one was a better movie. I think this one was a better portrayal of the character of Batman than the first one was, because he's quieter. He doesn't talk as much in this one. He felt more to me like what I envisioned Batman would be like. So to me, there's so much to love about this movie, and there's so little that I don't love about it. I feel kind of bad that it's that far down the list, but fact of the matter is, again, I love everything from this point on. So it's no disrespect to this one. There's just other ones that I have in line ahead of it.
Just about to mention quickly too, because I forgot to mention it while I was talking about it. In terms of my childhood, I have mixed feelings with Batman Returns too, because this is the one where I was getting all the toys, I was getting all the merchandise, I was getting everything, but I wasn't allowed to go see it at the cinema, which just confused the hell out. Talk about getting mixed signals as a kid. So I mean, yeah, that's always had sort of that against it as well. It's like, oh, well, this is the one that wasn't for me, even though I was getting everything to friggin' do with it.
When I was a kid, there was a Rambo animated series. There were RoboCop and Rambo toys on the shelves at Toys R Us and KB Toys. So yeah, even going back to the late 1970s, there was a giant Alien action figure.
Yeah.
Which I still want that thing, by the way, but that son of a gun is valuable. So anyway, the point is, they love sending mixed signals to kid about things that
especially in the
they
80s.
shouldn't
yeah.
like, but yeah.
All right, well then I guess it's my number 7, and so I just had this swapped with you, Brendan. My number 7 is Batman the movie from 1966. Okay. And like what you guys say, I love it. It's so damn fun. It's so entertaining. A lot of what you guys said, I just am going to echo, is that I probably saw it more than the show because it was so readily available. I remember it coming on Fox on the afternoon and taping it off TV, and I would watch it constantly, especially around that 1990 time, because I was just excited to get anything Batman. And it was instead of watching an episode of the show where you have to pick which villain you want to spend time with, you can get them all. Why choose? Why not all 4? It's just so darn fun. I had a chance to see it on the big screen a few years back, and that was really damn fun.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's such a good time. It's everything you love about the show in a movie. And I think that, honestly, the only reason it's probably not higher is because it's so at home on a TV. Because it's the 66 show. So in some ways it does feel like a movie because it's bigger, there's more scope, there's more going on, but it's it's a perfect thing for a Saturday afternoon while you're postponing getting dressed for the weekend and everything. I love it. Like you said, Brendan, I love that you get the Batcopter and the Batboat, and there's just so much to love about it, and so many things that have been iconic from that film. It's one that always makes you smile, and I love it. And yeah, again, it's splitting hairs. It's a movie that I legit love, and I don't really have any complaints about, other than the other ones. Just I like just a tiny bit more.
Oh, that's totally fair.
But I do love that we have that movie, because that way when we do lists like this, that era of Batman is represented, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, we're feeling bad about having things so low on the list. It's just, how spoiled are we that there's so many other Batman movies that for what, whichever movie we're talking about, we like better. It's a good problem to have at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and again, like to have a list of 11 and going, I kind of like them all. Some I absolutely love, but like I will watch any of them. So yeah, it's nice to be a Batman fan that we have this many options.
Yep.
All right, so what are we? Number 6. So we are middle of the pack now. Number 6, Jamie.
This one almost crushed my soul to have it down this low because I absolutely love this film. And that is The Dark Knight Rises. And the way that I know that I love this film and that I personally feel this film is great, warts and all, is I was riding a 4-year high of The Dark Knight, the movie that I saw in the theater to this date, still more times than any other movie, at 10 times, which I know to some of you just seems, some of you probably already seen The Batman 10 times, knowing how this stuff works nowadays. But it's just, I went into this movie. I had 4 years of waiting in anticipation. I was coming off the high of how much I loved The Dark Knight and dragging everybody, family, friend, and whoever else that I could into the theater to see The Dark Knight. And I walked out of this movie and I was not disappointed. That's not to say I didn't have some head scratching moments or some question marks or some why in the hell was this choice made here? And I do have some issues with the film, but as a whole, I adore the movie. And I said right along, even from when it first came out, and the first couple times I saw it, people would ask me about it because they knew how I felt about The Dark Knight. And I'd say, I don't think this is a perfect movie. I think it was the perfect end to a perfect trilogy. I think the two things that have the biggest strikes against this movie in a lot of people's heads, realize it or not, is number one, its ambition was its own worst enemy. I think
that's
they
fair.
probably
Yeah.
bit off almost
It's trying to
more
do
than
too
they
many
could chew.
things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They tried to cover so many bases, from The Dark Knight Returns to No Man's Land to Christ only knows how many other stories they tried to touch on with this thing, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
Nightfall. Just on and on. You could probably rattle off 12 or 15 Batman stories that this pulled from. It's insane, the ambition that this film had in trying to cover so many bases.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about it is, I think, and this is my own speculation, I've said it for years, I've said it since the beginning when the arguments online started about this movie, I think what happened between the transition of Burton to Schumacher is a huge reason why Nolan wanted a closed-end story on his Batman tale. He wanted to take his ball and go home. He didn't want somebody else breaking the lamp that he lit.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense, I just think he wanted to tell his story the way he wanted to, without anybody else being able to come in and taint the legacy, if you will, of what he set up here. And that's why it's as open and closed as it is. Now,
I thought you were going to say that if Ledger hadn't passed away, we probably would have got a completely different movie, which is probably worth mentioning as well, because I do think that's the case too.
A lot of people have speculated that. I don't know enough background about the movie to know what Nolan may have had in mind prior to this thing actually going into production. Of course, it's said that he, had some burden over what happened with Heath, and maybe that affected some of the way that he did this one. I don't know. So much of that is stuff that I don't know or is speculation. But for me, the biggest problem that I have with the movie is the Blake quote reveal at the end. I thought that was just bloody ridiculous. That's really the only thing in the movie I didn't like from the first time I saw it. But I think everything else is so well done. I think Hardy is excellent. I think Hathaway is excellent. Bale through and through from all three movies is excellent. Kane, even though he was kind of taken off the table pretty early on, was great. I love most of the things about this movie. I can't say that I love everything, unfortunately, but I love so much more of this movie than I don't. That I think it's great. I don't think it's quite a perfect film.
All right, so number 6, Dark Knight Rises. Okay, what about you, Brendan? Number 6.
My number 6 is Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, and when I talk about this movie, I must preface I'm talking about the Ultimate Edition.
Of
the
course,
version
of course.
that got, yeah.
It goes without saying.
Yeah, I just thought. Well, I felt that I needed to, but look, I do genuinely really like this movie. Obviously, I mean, it's in my top half. Well, I guess it's falling in the middle, but I still sort of, in my mind, sort of look at this as the top half. It's a movie that, with fandom, has probably caused more fights than any other movie I can think of. I fall on the side of...
What are you talking about?
Man of Steel kicked off a lot of that, and since this is pretty much the sequel to that, then yeah.
Man of Steel started it, and we have never been the same since.
I fall on the side of the fence where I like it. I like it a hell of a lot. But I can look at this movie and also completely understand why other people didn't. It's a very heavy movie. And similar to Dark Knight Rises, like, except with this one I do fall more on the side of agreeing with it though, but I can understand why people would see this movie and be like, that's what you decided to do? Really? And I get it. I honestly do. I can look at it from both sides, but like I said, I just fall on the side of the fence where people would really enjoy it more. I mean, this movie for me, I think Affleck is just perfectly cast. I mean, we're obviously going to focus more on Batman because that's what we're talking about with this ranking. He's such a good Batman. He's such a good Bruce Wayne. To this day, even including what's about to come, I don't think you've got a more ripped from the comic pages version of Batman and Bruce Wayne. He looks like Bruce Wayne from Batman the Animated Series brought to life. Like, he legitimately does. I mean, the Martha rescue scene alone has this movie in some of my favorite conversations talking about Batman live action stuff. It is really, really good and really, really solid. But again, like I said, this is all my 4-star movies, and if I'm looking at my shelf, there are just other ones I'm going to put on above it. And I know that some people would have this movie ranked a lot higher. I can totally see where you're coming from with that as well, but these other ones I would just reach for first. But it's a solid entry, and I mean, look, the fact that I'm still pissed that we're not getting more of Affleck all these years later, I mean, after The Flash, obviously, it says a lot, because he's, in my mind, when I think of live-action Batman now, I think of Ben Affleck.
All right. Well, we all have very different number 6s. My number 6 is a movie I legit love. I think it's a great movie. I don't even have anything negative really to say about it. The only reason it's number 6 and not higher is a very specific reason, which I will share with you in just a second. My number 6 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think it's a great movie. I'll watch it right now if I got 4 hours to spare. It's great. The only reason it's not higher is because it's not really a Batman movie. It's a DC movie. It's a great DC movie. But if I want to watch a Batman movie, I'm not going to pick Zack Snyder's Justice League first. So it's sort of sitting right in the middle, whereas it's a weird place where it's like, it's a movie I legitimately love and it has so much of the DC universe in it, but it's just not super heavy on Batman. And that's really the only reason.
That makes perfect sense, And if I'd have approached it that way as well, it'd probably be right around this spot as well.
Yeah.
So using that logic, I can't disagree.
Yeah, and again, that's really it. Is I looked at that, and when I saw that, and I was like, well, do I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is better than blank? Probably. But if I'm in the mood for a Batman movie, I'm probably going to pick the other one anyway. So that was my thought process. So, number 5, Jamie.
My number 5 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
All right.
I don't know what I can say about it that hasn't been said time and time again on this show, on this episode, or anything else. I adore the movie. I think it's, as Brendan said, I mean, have we ever seen a better looking Batman on screen, a better moving Batman on screen? Shout out to Richard for bringing so much of that to life on a screen, and I will shout out to Richard for till my dying breath for bringing that to life the way that he did. And Zach and the choreographers and the cinematographers. I mean, it's beautiful. They're much like what I said with Dark Knight Rises. There's just a choice or two that was made here or there that might have held it back from being more at the top of the list than in the middle. But that's not to say it's not great. That's not to say I don't love it. And I think this, like with pretty much every other Zack Snyder movie I've ever watched, the more you watch it, the more you can unpack from it. And it's so deep and rich. And it's, so many people unfortunately took this for just the surface level of it. Even me, the first time I watched this movie in the theater, I came out, I really didn't like the movie that much. But I had built up such impossible expectations that my favorite two characters of all time in a comic book, medium, brought to life together on a screen for the first time ever in non-animated form, done by one of my favorite directors, whose every single one of his movies to that point I had loved. I don't know how a movie could meet the expectations that I sat down in the theater that night hoping to get out of that film. But then I went and saw it a day or two later the second time, and I'm like, was more able to take the movie for what it was than what I was expecting, hoping for, dreamed up in my head.
Were getting.
The buildup was crazy. I had so many things I wanted to see that I just didn't see in the film, but that's not the movie's fault. That's on me. So when I was able to actually see it again, and then for a third time in the theater, I was really able to adjust my perspective on it, and I came to appreciate the movie a great deal. And I love the film, and I have since that time. Other than that first time coming out with those weird expectations, I love this movie. I think it's fantastic, and it doesn't talk down to its audience. It doesn't hold the audience's hand. It makes you think about your own things to draw your own conclusions in so much of it. And people will call it bad. I've heard people say bad storytelling, bad story, bad writing, bad everything. I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. If anything, it's better writing than what most superhero movies to that point had. Because of the reasons I'm saying, because it did make you think, because it was so much more than just the surface level presentation of it. So for that reason alone, I think this movie is very special. And I think time has been kind to this film. And I think going forward, it will continue to increasingly be more and more kind to this film.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump ahead because that's also my number 5 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
I did.
Yeah, so right there. And it's funny because, as I was just saying, I was like, do I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is a better movie than BVS? I do. But if I'm in the mood for Batman, I'm going to choose BVS first. And I do love BVS. I love it. I loved it in the theater. I love the Ultimate Edition even more. I love it as a film. Like you said, Brendan, though, I totally understand the fans who don't love it. And I don't think they're wrong. Like, people have different preferences for these characters. And so even though it's a movie I loved, and even that first time getting in the theater, knowing already that the mixed reception, I sat down kind of worried, and I kept waiting to hate it. And then when it was over, I was like, no, I loved it. Thought it was great. And I still love it. I think it's awesome. Like you guys said, I love Affleck as Batman. I think it was an amazing casting. It's the best he's ever looked. I do think his arc in the movie is great as well. I like the way that it starts getting the pieces in place for Justice League. I do love the story it tells. There's a lot going on in it, but that's also why I love it. It is a full meal of a movie, and there's just so much happening. And as Jamie just said, I think time has been very kind to it. It's something that I've always gone back to, and I just enjoy more and more as the years go by. It's a movie that I love. It's a great Batman movie, and I think that like following up the Dark Knight trilogy was no easy task, and Zack Snyder and Ben Affleck and Chris Terrio were able to give us a version that is distinctive unto itself but was still very much Batman, and was a great entry point into the greater DC universe on film. So I love BVS, and it's why it's number 5.
Cool.
Now number 4, Jamie.
My number 5.
Oh wait. Oh, okay, fine. What's number 5?
Well, you're gonna think I'm crazy. And sorry,
We
not
do
sorry.
anyway. Don't worry.
But my number 5 is Batman Forever.
I'm honestly surprised it's this low.
Look, you guys know I love this movie. And is it as good as a movie as BVS and Rises and stuff? It's not. I know it's not. But look, nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and this movie for me is my childhood summed up in, it's the greatest memories of my childhood summed up in 120 minutes, whatever the runtime is. How I said about Batman Returns, like I was on the hype train for it. I was getting all the toys. I was getting the Happy Meals. Same thing with Batman Forever, but this one had a payoff for me. It's the first time I ever remember, mum pre-buying tickets for opening day for a movie. It's the first time I ever remember going to see because they didn't do midnight screenings back then for this sort of stuff. And I mean, I was, also 11, so I wouldn't have been able to go to it. But, we had tickets to opening session on opening day. And I'd never had that kind of excitement or hype for a movie in my life to that point, I watched and recorded the making of specials and stuff that were on TV of opening week and watched them ad nauseum. And I had the novel and I had the magazine, and I can totally understand, particularly what you said, Andy, before about it being a messy movie. And we know the reasons for that and the way it was re-edited and everything. And I everyone's complaints with this movie, I get. My biggest one that I will push back on is when people throw Batman Forever and Batman and Robin into the same one giant movie that didn't do well at the box office. That's just not true. But I'm sorry, I love this movie, and it's purely nostalgia driven. And whenever I put this movie on, I'm transported to being 11 again, in a Batman costume, running around, playing this movie over and over in my head, watching the video over and over, when it came out, getting on my bike and riding to the video store the week that I knew the movie was coming out to rent here, and just checking in like multiple times a day to see if it had arrived yet, because I was so excited to be able to watch it again. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I love this movie. What can I say? It just sums up so much for me. The nostalgia I have for it is just second to none. Like it's amazing.
Well, all right. See, that's why I must have just subconsciously tried to jump over number 5. Maybe that's what happened.
The fact that you led into it like that, I'm like, oh god.
I didn't know. I honestly didn't know where.
No, I know.
No idea. I just messed up the order of things and got confused. I get confused. I'm an old man now. Okay. On to number 4, Jamie.
My number 4 is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I'm going to throw the same caveat out that Andy did. Is this probably a better movie than one or two of them that I have ahead of it? Yeah, I think it is, especially one of them. But yeah, it's not just a Batman movie. And for the lengthy runtime of the film, which I don't mind necessarily, but if I'm just in the mood to rock some Batman, this probably isn't the one I'm going to pull off the shelf or turn on HBO Max or whatever else. It's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie. I'm still unpacking things that I'm seeing in this movie every time I view it, and getting deeper into it and enjoying it more and more with every viewing. But as far as a pure Batman movie, I just have 3 other ones that I think qualify better in that realm. But that's not to say that I don't have this in the top shelf of the quality department, because I think it's all there and then some, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. All right, Brendan, your number 4?
My number 4 is Batman 89. I mean, let's be honest. If it weren't for this movie, we wouldn't be talking to each other today. We wouldn't probably know each other. We wouldn't be friends. We wouldn't have, you know, 9, because Batman 66, obviously, we wouldn't have 9 other movies to talk about. Look, and Batman 89 onwards, these are all my 5 stars in terms of rating. So again, it's just the order in which I'd watch them. It's Batman 89. We know it gave us Nicholson as the Joker, which was perfect. It gave us Keaton as Batman, which, you know, at the time people didn't realize was kind of perfect, but in that world, it was. You know, Keaton works brilliantly. We're about to get Keaton back, for crying out loud, because of this movie. We've got Danny Elfman's score. We've got the Anton Furst Batmobile. We've got the Prince album that goes along with it. You know, this movie is iconic. And I mean, I love it. It because of this movie, I'm a Batman fan. You know, it came out when I was 5, and I'd never heard of Batman. It introduced me to the Batman character. It introduced me to the Batman 66 show. I mean, I personally didn't see this movie until 1990 when it came out to rent. But it felt like I saw it in 1989 just because of it was everywhere. I mean, I know where it's going to land for you, Andy. It's no spoiler, and I totally get it. It's brilliant, and it means so much to so many people. And like I said, if it weren't for this movie, we wouldn't know each other. We wouldn't be having this conversation, and that can't be understated. It's Batman 89. It's iconic. It's brilliant, and I'll always love it, and I'll always be happy to put it on.
All right, excellent. My number 4. This is where I have Batman Returns. So I had it highest, but again, it's not a huge surprise because you all know that I love this movie. And again, it's one of those things where, like, can you make a case that some of the other movies I had lower are better movies? Sure, you probably can, but this is just going by, like we said, the one I'm going to watch the most often, that I get the most enjoyment out of, and I just love Batman Returns. And I've had a complicated history with it because over the years, like, you know, when it was newer, I was a little more disappointed in it, and I just think that over the years it's gotten better for me. It helps that it's an annual watch, like Jamie said, that I watch it every Christmas. It's just, for me, I love the combination of Burton and Batman. For me, that's a combination that really works, and I love both of those things separately, and so I really love them when they're together. And I love how weird and bizarre and fun and funny this movie is. I appreciate that Burton was really trying to do something really different and unique with this film. My biggest complaint has always been what you said earlier, Brendan, and I've said it on this show multiple times. My biggest complaint is that it doesn't feel more like a direct sequel. I think that is the weakness of the film, is that it very much stands on its own. That was an intentional choice by Burton, but it's not one that I've always agreed with. Aside from that, though, I love the design. I think the cast is outstanding all around. I think Michael Keaton gives an amazing performance in this. You know, I echo both of your sentiments about Pfeiffer as Catwoman and DeVito as the Penguin. I think DeVito's...
Thank God for Annette Bening getting pregnant.
I know, right? Like, so...
Talk about a sliding doors moment.
No kidding. Like, and Pfeiffer just owns that role. And I think because of how good Pfeiffer is, I think DeVito often is unsung in the movie, and he is just as good. He is so committed to that role. I love how tragic and weird and dark and crazy of a movie it is. And so, yeah, it's just one that I love revisiting. Does nostalgia play a part? I'm sure. But do I still love it every time I pop it in December? Also, yes. I can always put it on and I'm entertained by it. And I love Burton's lens of these characters, of Batman, of Catwoman, of Penguin, and even Max Schreck. I totally understand your point, Brendan. I don't even disagree with it. Is there too much Max Schreck? Probably, objectively speaking. But man, Christopher Walken is so damn entertaining, I don't even mind. And after what? How long has it been now? Is this 30 years now?
30 years.
After 30 years, I'm not mad at it anymore. It just is what it is, and I have so much fun watching him as sort of the conduit between the other three. So yeah, it's just a movie that I've only gained appreciation for as the years have gone by, and I just love it. It's a sentimental favorite, but it's one that I just think is so darn good. So, Batman Returns.
I do wonder how I'd feel about this movie had it have been, like I said with Batman Forever, had I been allowed to see it at the cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Had it have been the first, and that was something I forgot to mention as well. It was the first, Batman Forever was the first Batman movie I ever saw on the big screen, and that goes a long way. But if it had have been Batman Returns, I'd love to talk about a sliding doors moment. I'd love to sort of be able to go back in time and just see how I would feel about this movie now had I had all those things with Batman Returns instead of Batman Forever,
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, makes sense. All right, number 3, Jamie.
My number 3 is Batman, 1989. This movie was an obsession for me as a young man, 13, 14 years old. It was 14 when it came out, but there was a lot of build up to this movie leading into it as well. At the time, it was the movie that I saw in the theater the most. I saw it 6 times. I've told the story about how I had to see No Evil, Hear No Evil twice in one day to be able to get the good seats in the theater that night with my parents at the midnight premiere. And I've told the story that my 5th or 6th showing of the film was my very first date with a girl in high school, and she was trying to get me to kiss her, and I was so damn involved in watching the movie that I had no idea that that's what she wanted me to do. I was just, having seen the movie already and loving it the way that I did, I was still that focused on it that I was ignoring this cute girl sitting next to me. And
I didn't think I knew that. If I did, I've forgotten. That's awesome.
I've got so many memories that are, the second time I saw it was the next day. I saw the midnight premiere, and then I went with my best friend that I grew up with in the neighborhood, and we went over there to the theater, and I remember his reaction vividly, like it was yesterday. Here we are, some 33 years later. I remember when Joker took a shot at Batman, and Batman put the gauntlet up and deflected the bullet, and I remember him yelling out in the theater, going, "Oh, he blocked that shit!" I just, my memories of this film are just wonderful. The symbol shape in the back of the head, and Batmania, scouring the country the way that it did, probably the earth, but I was only in the U.S., so I can only speak for that. It's such a good time. And the movie itself, I think, has aged beautifully. Over the years, I kind of went on a roller coaster ride of having some issues here and there, but the truth of the matter is, this was the granddaddy of Batman films. No disrespect to 66, but this is, what Brendan was saying. This is why we have what we have in relation to Batman in cinema these days, is this movie. This is where it all stems from and came from. And there are so many people of our generation that this movie is at the top of that hill for those reasons, and that it inspired them. You look even at the costumes in the Dark Knight trilogy and the current Batman film, I would argue are more or less inspired and or based off of the costume from this movie, because of the very dark design, the black. I know some people are saying it's gray in the new film, whatever, but it looks black to me. It's the inspiration that this has carried is probably arguably the cinematic equivalent of something like The Dark Knight Returns, how influential that was over the comic book industry. I think this has influenced so much of what came after it in comic book movie cinema, not just for Batman, but for other superheroes as well.
Oh, dude, Marvel, all of it, it's because of Batman 89. I mean, you could argue Superman, but 89 is...
I mean, it took 11 years after Superman to get Batman. So, no, it's Batman 89 that you can thank for our modern era of superhero cinema.
Superman 4, it was only 2 years, okay? And everybody loves Superman 4, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. At any rate, I mean, you can bounce back and forth on what you think is responsible for the modern day comic book movie cinema theater that we have out there. But to me, it all comes back to this one. None of it's the same without this movie. And my personal enjoyment of this film in more recent years, probably the past 10 to 15 years, hasn't dwindled at all. I still love it as much now as I did as a kid. I don't shave the bat symbol in the back of my head and any of that, but I still drive around and listen to the soundtrack here and there.
You still do. It's just on the back of your head.
I still watch this movie.
Batscaped.
Manscaped.
I still watch the movie at least once a year, and I still watch it. And it's not one that I'm on my phone the whole time I'm watching. It's whatever the runtime is. Andy, you probably have it down to the second, but 2 hours and 20 minutes, whatever the runtime may be.
I'm gonna say 2 hours and 5 minutes. Now let's see if I'm right.
2 hours and 5 minutes.
Wait, no, I'm guessing, but I like the challenge you just threw at me, so now I'm gonna check. Please continue.
I'm honestly shocked you don't have it memorized, frankly. But at any rate, the whole time I'm focused on the film, and I'm enjoying the film, and I'm loving the film. I think the only weakness for me, hate me for it if you will, or whatever, I'm not crazy about Kim Basinger. But that's more of a me thing than, really a detriment on Kim Basinger. I don't think she's
so close.
One of my favorite, like 2:07.
2 hours and 6 minutes.
Oh shit.
Damn. All right, well, I'm closing down shop, guys. I quit. This is going to be the last episode. I have failed. Casual. I have failed all of you. I'm just a noob, just using this for clout.
But anyway, enough of me gushing. I think it's a great film, and I probably think Zack Snyder's Justice League is a better film than this. No disrespect intended in any direction here, but this is a Batman movie, not a Justice League movie. So even though Batman is obviously heavily involved with Zack Snyder's Justice League, as far as a Batman movie is concerned, and because of time restraints, I'm probably going to pull this off the shelf before I click the button on ZSJL. So that's that.
All right. Number 3 for you, Brendan.
Number 3 is, speaking of, it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. I get the argument you guys have made because it's not a straight up Batman movie. And like I said, honestly, if I'd have thought of it that way, I'd probably have it more middle of the pack like you guys did. But I think the reason it's so high for me, just in terms of superhero live action storytelling, it's epic. Definitely in terms of DC, I will say just in terms of a single standalone movie, including Marvel stuff, I don't know if there's been a movie as epic as Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I mean, it's amazing. We know how good the movie is. Damn, I wish that this had been what we got into 2017. Because I think we live in a very, very different world if it was. And I mean, the Batman, if we're going to focus on Batman, the Batman stuff that's in here is awesome. I do love Bruce's arc following on from BVS. The Faith Alfred Faith. I mean, it's spectacular. So I won't bang on about it, but just the fact that it's so grand and epic and amazing, and God, I wish I could see it on a cinema screen one day. That's why it ranks so highly for me.
Sweet. I mean, no argument. It's freaking great. So nope, nobody wants to fight you on that. My number 3, I love. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece, but it's The Dark Knight. I love The Dark Knight. When I saw that movie midnight in 2008, I paid for the whole seat, but I only needed the edge of it.
I love when you use that. So
it's the best. Anyway, so no, Dark Knight is. I mean, it's a great Batman film. It's a great film. It's one of those that it truly just grabbed me, and the whole rest of the world ceased to exist while I was watching that movie. I got so sucked in, and that's always the best experience when watching movies, and that's what happens to my favorite movies. And The Dark Knight was no exception to that. I love it. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. The only reason it's number 3 is the other two. Again, we've talked about this before. You know what the other two are. It's not going to surprise you. So I love The Dark Knight. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece. It's one that I am always happy to revisit. And I am taken back to the theater in 2008 where I was just enthralled and like truly holding my breath because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And that's such an exciting feeling when a story can suck you in like that. And The Dark Knight is just amazing. And so even though it's my number 3, when people go, oh, Dark Knight's the best, I go, yes, you're right. Like, honestly, for my top three, you can say any of them and I'd go, yes, you're right, of course, because it's so hard to pick. But yeah, it's just a personal preference thing. But Dark Knight, amazing, wonderful. Love it, but it is my number 3.
I remember having the conversation with my comic book shop guy that I went to high school with that became my advisor. And I've probably had it with at least one, if not both of you, at least once at some point. But the moment where they catch the Joker, the truck flips over, they've got him on the ground, Gordon says, "We got you, you son of a bitch," that whole thing. And you're like, whew, what a movie, what a ride, that was great. Wait, there's more?
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we thought the movie was done at that point, and we were spent. We were okay with it, and then it like kicks into another thing, carries on to the next act of the movie. I mean, it's so engrossing that when it offers you more, when you think it's done, and you're like, yes, please. It's like, Oliver Twist up there. Please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember,
I totally get it.
Like when it came out, and it was this huge thing. You talk about Batmania. Batmania happened in 1989, but it also happened again in 2008. But I remember people going, "Oh, I loved it," but it was just a little too long. And I was like, man, like I had no idea how much time had passed because that's how into it I was. No clue.
Exactly. And I remember dragging my father to see the movie, and walking out and asking him. I'd seen the movie probably 4 or 5 times at that point. And I was walking out with my dad, and I said, "Hey, what'd you think?" He's like, "If I spent my life in a room, I'm not sure that I could have written half of what was in that movie." I don't remember the exact verbiage he said. He's like, "If I spent my whole life trying to write it, I couldn't have come up with that movie." Basically, that was his way of saying that was ingenious and, thought-provoking or what have you. So, my father to give a Batman movie that kind of praise really kind of took me by surprise as well.
Yeah.
Because my dad's generally not very into superhero movies, so.
Nice. All right. Well, on to number 2, Jamie.
My number 2 is Batman Begins. The Batman movie that I had probably the least amount of hype of to that point, and went and saw it on the Thursday evening guys' night out at the movies thing, and walked out of that. And of course, me being the comic book guy, the 2 guys I went with, "What'd you think of the movie?" I was like, you know what? For all of the creative liberties that they took in, making this their own thing, that was as true to form a Batman movie as I could have ever hoped to see in my life. I was so blown away by how good this thing was, beginning to end, and everything. I was a Bale fan at that point. Like, American Psycho is what made me a Christian Bale fan, and he's still one of my favorite actors to this day. And I was just captivated by this film. Pretty much everything Andy said about The Dark Knight, that's how I felt watching this. Watching the Batmobile run away from the police, and watching him deal with Ra's al Ghul both before Batman and as Batman, and just all of it just so wonderful. And of course, being the Ra's fan that I am, I was blown away that I actually got Ra's al Ghul on a movie screen, because at that point I never imagined it would happen. So, yeah, there's so much to love about this movie. There's really nothing about this movie that I would change. And that's, to me, the highest praise I can give a film is, usually with a movie, I'll as much as I love Zack Snyder's Justice League, there's things I would change about that. Or Batman 89, there's things I'd change about that. BVS, there's things I'd change about that. And it's not that I don't love the movies as they are. It's just, I think to myself, maybe if this was done a little differently, I would have liked it even more. In the case of Batman Begins, I don't even think I can bring that up, because I don't think there's anything you could change about this movie to genuinely improve it with any significant measure.
Okay. Brendan, number 2.
My number 2 is The Dark Knight. I don't think in my life up to that point, or maybe even since, actually. The only one that I think of that comes close is BVS, but I lived and breathed this movie for years leading up to it. That first full trailer that came out in the December of 2007, I downloaded and put on my iPod. And I watched that trailer. I've never to this day seen a trailer more times than I have that Dark Knight trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I was obsessed with this movie. And then, of course, what happened tragically with Heath, there sort of became a mystical element to it as well, for lack of a better term. Like, I know you guys know what I mean.
Oh, for sure. It added a whole nother layer of, yes, interest and mystique around the movie.
Yeah, mystique's probably a better word. I still think, even everything that we've gotten since, I still think to this day, I don't know if we've ever had the level of writing and seriousness and acting and everything that we had with this movie. It is brilliant. It took superhero storytelling and just took it to a whole other level. And I think this is one of the very few movies that you can call a perfect movie. And I'll explain why it's not my number one when I get to a number one, which, spoiler alert, people know what it is now if you're keeping score. But oh man, it is so good that, I don't care if it never gets topped in terms of superhero cinema and a Batman movie. It's the Dark Knight. It's a cultural phenomenon. It deserves every accolade that it got. It's still to this
changed
day,
the Academy Awards.
I was just about to say, to this day, still ripped off that it never got a Best Picture nomination, but it's because of the Dark Knight. The Academy Awards have been changed forever.
But the good news is that The Reader got a Best Pick nomination. The Reader, the movie that we all talk about all the time. We always go see The Reader. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. We're going to, on the next episode, we're going to rank our 10 favorite moments from The Reader.
Awesome.
So something to look forward to, guys.
Yeah, you guys know, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's funny because, we're on our number twos, but as we get to the top of the list, it's pretty anticlimactic because anybody who's ever listened to this show knows what these are going to be, because we've talked about these a lot. It's more the middle where we rank that I think is more of a surprise. My number two, I'm with Jamie. It's Batman Begins. I always say Batman Begins is the best Batman movie ever made. There can certainly be a case made for The Dark Knight, and I'm not even going to fight you about it. But for me, again, I have a slight preference for Begins over The Dark Knight, even though I think they are both amazing Batman films. I think they're both masterpieces in their own right. And I do think that, much like Jamie, Batman Begins came out, it was so strange that I was like, yeah, I'll go see it. But it was the least invested I was, just because it had been so long and I'd sort of been distracted. And then when I got in that theater,
and there was no public hype about it either, not until after the fact. It was posthumous hype about the film, I guess.
Exactly. So And I remember it opened at $40 million, which was fine, but nothing to write home about. So yeah, it was such a weird, almost a sleeper, which is weird for a Batman movie to be a sleeper, but that's how it was. I want to say opening weekend was 48, if I'm remembering correctly, but still crazy. But I went into the theater going, oh yeah, the new Batman movie. And what's funny is that it had even been spoiled for me. The Roz thing had been spoiled for me before I even went to see it, because that was when I used to go on Ain't It Cool News. Which, is that still up? I haven't even checked in a decade, but at the time I would always been Ain't It Cool, and they spoiled it there. And man, it didn't matter. I sat down in that theater, and as it started, I was like, much like The Dark Knight, I just got immediately sucked in, and the filmmaking is so good. I love what Nolan did, and especially keeping the first half of the movie very out of order. That was a very cool, creative way, and that first half of that movie has such momentum, and there is so much. I think it's true about the whole Nolan trilogy, but there is so much packed into each one of those films. And with Begins, he just makes it look so easy, and that's a feat unto itself. It's just such a great movie, and I think it is still the best Bruce Wayne focused Batman film I think ever made, because it's truly about him. It's about his journey. It's about his arc. And yes, I'm not saying there aren't other Batman films that are about him, but I think this is the one that is most about him, if you get what I'm saying. And what I like about it, and I think this is the reason I give it the slightest edge over The Dark Knight, is that when the movie starts, it's in a very real world setting, and it just so slightly gradually gets you to a comic book movie by the end where you didn't even notice it happen, that in the end you're buying him hanging from a monorail racing through the city while water is being vaporized. Like it so gradually gets you there, and it's so seamless that you start, and it's like this very real world thing of two little kids in our world, and by the end you've got a straight on big comic book set piece action sequence, and it all still feels cohesive. And I love that. I think it's just that little extra bit of comic bookiness to this versus The Dark Knight, which is why I give it the slightest little edge. I love the Scarecrow in it. I love Ra's al Ghul in it. I love the way this is a movie that balances multiple villains in a way that also feels very natural and cohesive. Like it's not forcing anything. It all just works so well. I love this movie. I love the score. I love the action. I love the story. Batman Begins, I just think it's just another masterpiece in the Batman catalog. It's one I never get tired of watching. I think it's awesome, and I still think it's the best Batman movie, even if it's not my number one. It's my number two.
I think I know what I'm going to watch when we get off this episode tonight.
Well, I mean, it's funny, me and Catherine, we're going to be home with a newborn, so we're going to be home a lot, and she's like, well, maybe in between feedings and naps, we'll do a Batman marathon. And I was like, this is why I married you. Yes.
Atta girl.
So that leaves us to number one. Jamie, tell us about The Dark Knight.
Need to say it out loud.
Tell us about it.
I only say it about every other episode that I think it's the greatest film ever made, let alone my favorite Batman movie. So, yeah, I mean, it's what do I say that I haven't said multiple times in the past with such enthusiasm? I think this. Listen, don't at me, and you couldn't if you wanted to. It's perfect. There's not one frame of this movie I would change to make it better. Not one. Not a stinking ass one. If I had a single gripe about this movie, a single one, it would be the change of Rachel Dawes. But I actually think Maggie Gyllenhaal's a better actress than Katie Holmes is, so I was okay with the switch. Anyway, what do I say about him? What can I say about this movie other than I think it's perfect? I mean, where can I go? What story can I tell that I haven't told a half a dozen times on this show in the last 8 years? Y'all have heard me say it. Y'all are sick of me gushing about this movie. I think it's the greatest movie of all time. With a cape or a cowl or a utility belt or a supervillain or not, I think it's the greatest film ever made. So, that's in a nutshell. For the sake of time, I'm going to pass it on to somebody else now. But fantastic film. Walked out thinking it was. I went to work the next day. I've told this story before. I'll just tell it one more time.
So much for the sake of time.
Yeah. I almost didn't go to the midnight showing because I was tired and I had a bad day, and I love Batman Begins. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, I don't need to go to the midnight showing. I'm not going with anybody else. It's like, to hell with it. I'll just go see it tomorrow after work. And I laid down, and it's like 10:30, and I'm like, oh, some asshole will spoil this on the internet if I don't go, or something will happen, or I'll kick myself in the ass for not having done it. So I'm like, all right, honey, I'm going to the movie. She's like, all right, have fun. So I went there, and I sat there, and I'm watching Batman Begins on my iPod, waiting in line to get in the theater because no reserve seating or anything at this point.
Remember we used to watch Batman movies on an iPod?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So I get in there and I watch this movie, and I told a little bit about thinking it was over at the truck flip scene, and it just kept going on and on and on, and I walked out of that movie just stunned at how much I loved it. And I went to work the next day, and it's that same friend that said, "Oh God, he blocked that shit." In Batman 89, it was that same friend. We were working at the same place at the time. And I walked into work the next day, and I was like, He's like, so what'd you think of the movie? I was like, you know what? I think that's the best movie I've ever seen in my life. I got to see it again to make sure, but I think it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. And he's like, oh, bullshit. You're hyped up, whatever. And I drug his ass to see that one too. And, it's been nothing but a love affair for me ever since. I sit around and I just keep waiting for another movie to show up that I'm going to love more than that. And it ain't happened in, almost 14 years now. So that's where I'm at with that one.
All right. Okay, Brendan, number 1.
Batman Begins.
Sweet.
I've been saying it for 14 years. I think The Dark Knight is a better movie. But Batman Begins, out of the 11 that we've talked about, I still think is the only pure movie about Bruce Wayne and Batman. It is about that character from start to finish. It doesn't focus on villains. They're there obviously, for the story, for the sake of the story, but it is about Bruce Wayne's journey, becoming Batman, why he does it, how he does it. I mean, for me personally, this movie is the reason, I talk about Batman 89 and it's true, but this movie is the reason that I'm sitting here talking to you guys today. It was this movie that brought me back to Batman and comic books and superhero fandom. Because I hadn't been into it for years. From say 97 onwards, when I started high school, and it all became about music and girls and I worked at a video store, I was still into movies and stuff, but there was also no Batman content coming out. This movie is what brought it all back for me. I can just still remember clearly. It was like it came out in June. It was like early to mid-May that I kind of really started to get excited for it. I went into the local Target and I hadn't seen them do this for a movie for a long time. Spider-Man, I guess, but they actually had an aisle like decked out with like facades and stuff at the end of the aisle that you would enter, like this archway and everything, and it was all Batman stuff. And it had been 10 years at that point, but it took me back to 1995. It took me back to Batman Forever. Having that feeling again of like, holy shit. And I had my ultimate Batman from Batman Forever and even from Batman Returns, actually. And this time around they had the Batman that's a foot and a half, 2 feet tall. I bought it and I started getting Batman toys again, and I went to the local comic shop and I bought Batman Year One. I'd never read that before. And it was all because of Batman Begins coming out. And I mean, to this day still, I watch that movie and we get to the dock scene and I lean forward. I know it's coming. I've seen it a million times. But I love his first appearance as Batman. Jamie mentioned the chase with the tumbler and the police cars. I still lean forward in my chair or sit up in bed if I'm watching it in bed, when these things happen. I saw this movie, and this has never been eclipsed for me. I saw this movie 4 times in 3 days. It's the only time I've seen the same movie twice in the same day. I went to the first session opening day, and a few friends I was with were planning on going again that night with other friends who couldn't be there in the morning, and they asked me to come before we'd seen the movie. I'm like, oh, no, I'm seeing it now. Like, I might see it again in the next couple of days, but seeing a movie twice in the same day, that seems a bit foolish. Walked out of the movie, went straight up to the box office and bought my ticket for that night. And then again, 4 times in 3 days, it reignited something in me that at that point I didn't know that I'd missed as much as I did. And I've been on the ride ever since, and it's responsible for me meeting you guys and being here today. And I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. but to this day, it's still the most pure Bruce Wayne Batman movie in existence. And that's why, for now, it will still always take out the number one spot for me.
All right. No argument here. All good.
As Andy said about, saying he liked Begins better than The Dark Knight, but he never makes that argument. It's the exact same for me. I prefer Dark Knight over Begins, but I see the perspective that people have of liking Begins better, and I never argue against it because I think it's of nearly equal quality in my own mind. So
let's
totally get it.
Let's put it this way that I think we can all agree on. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, perfect double feature.
It's the best 1-2 punch that's ever done.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking of it when Jamie was talking about the movie, is Batman Begins, and I mean, yes, I know it's a trilogy, but there still feels like a bit of a disconnect between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a time jump, so that's on purpose.
But these two movies are just, if you could roll them into one giant movie,
yeah, they just click together, right?
They're the ultimate Batman movie combined. But I said, it's just for the fact that Batman Begins is more a Batman movie than any of them, is why it takes out my number one spot.
Yeah. And how does the ending sequences in both of those movies? Like, the hair still stands up on the back of my neck on the Gordon Batman conversation about the Joker card. And when Gordon's given the conversation with his son about how he has to run because we have to chase him, and he goes on that whole spiel, and then he ends by saying, he's the watchful protector of the Dark Knight, like, and then it kicks in with that boom drum beat from Hans Zimmer's score, and it's like, the hype still rises in me on both of those occasions at the end of both of those movies.
Yep.
That's not something I can say about a lot of movies that still has that effect.
Totally agree. When each movie ends, even though we're watching it now, many, many years later, after countless viewings, you're right. Both endings, you're like, when it's done, you're like, oh man, that was good. Yeah, it still has that same effect.
And I think I agree. Andy and I have talked about this, and the conversation's been had out there in the ether forever. There should have been 4 Dark Knight movies. There should have been one more after The Dark Knight before The Dark Knight Rises, and I really think people would have eased up on The Dark Knight Rises a lot more than
I think that would have for sure.
The answer is always one more movie, guys. If we'd have had one more Superman sequel in between it and BVS would have been more well received. It's just the answer is always more Batman.
Always more. All right. Well, I mean, my number one, not a shock. Again, I feel like we just talked about this at least briefly the other day, or not the other day, a few episodes ago. My number one is Batman from 1989. I always said Batman 89 is my favorite Batman film. Batman Begins, I think, is the best Batman film. And that is because very much like what you guys both said, what you said about Forever, Brendan, and what you said about Batman 89, Jamie, is Batman 89 is the movie that made me fall in love with Batman. It is the movie that made me fall in love with movies. It is a movie that literally changed my life. It so obsessed me and my imagination when it came out. There was nothing else in the world but Batman. And because of that experience, that's why I've been a lifelong Batman fan. That is why we have this podcast. That's why I started in the first place. Like, it changed everything. It changed movies. It changed summer movies, and it certainly changed a young Andy DiGenova. And all that is to say, it's still a great Batman movie. It's not a perfect Batman movie. There are nits to pick, but I also think that, there are certain nits that people try to pick that I will push back on and go, actually, no, it's not that. Here, let's look closer. And we went into a lot of that when we looked back at the film way back when, and then when we did the commentary for what that would have been for its 30th that we did the commentary for it.
Yeah, it was.
Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not going to address all those again, but I think it's a better movie than maybe some fans give it credit for. And at the same time, it's a movie that just played such a huge role in my life as a fan. it is hard to pick anything else. It's my sentimental favorite, and it's one of those, does nostalgia play a part? Yeah, you're damn right it does, but I also think it is a great movie anyway. It's a great summer movie. It's a great Batman movie. As we said, we can thank the superhero movie renaissance that we live in and trace it back to Batman 89. So I love it. It's amazing. I don't know if it will ever be topped as my favorite. Batman Begins comes the closest, and even then, like, I think for a minute Batman Begins did take it over, and then as the years passed, Batman 89 came back and took that spot back, because that's what happens, they shift a little bit. So Batman 89, it's still my sentimental favorite, and so it's still number one for me.
Yeah, I get it. I've been surprised if you'd have picked anything else just because of the conversations in the past, but to what you said about how it kind of goes back and forth with Begins a little bit. I think the Nolan trilogy, and we've had this conversation before, I think the Nolan trilogy nearly did to the Burton and Schumacher films what the Burton film did to Batman 66.
Yeah, it changed the perception.
In some people's minds, it made it obsolete to people.
Yeah.
And they almost had to circle back around to it and say, watch it again for the first time in a while. You know what? This still is a really good film, even if I may like these other ones better or like them differently or what have you. So, that's a conversation that really helped me expand and appreciate my perspective on this stuff. Is just because I like something else or it becomes my favorite Batman movie or my favorite movie or whatever, that doesn't mean 89's not still great or that 66 doesn't still have its place and I can't love it too. I mean, there's so much out there, 11 different movies, and there's at least 4 or 5 different shades of Batman in these 11 movies.
Yeah. And let's be real, it's happening again.
Right?
Is whenever there's a new version, people all there's a huge group of fans that feel the need to then crap on the previous version in honor of the new version, which is so odd. And in 89, I was certainly guilty of it, being like, oh, the old show is so corny. This is real Batman. But I was also 10 years old. And I think it happened to, I did it a little bit with Nolan. But I think by the time I got Affleck, I'm like, no, man, I still love the Nolan movies, but I'm still psyched for Affleck. What's wrong with both? And same thing here. I'm totally open to the Batman, but I'm not going to use that to crap on Affleck or the Nolan films or the Burton films for that matter. But no, it is funny how that seems to always happen. And then there's a little gap and then people come back and go, oh, well, actually, I can like both. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Right.
I mean, Man of Steel was a big one for that because how much back and forth was there between
it still is
Donner and Man of Steel? Exactly. It's still a point of contention. I have dearly loved both of those films from day one of watching both of them. And there's no reason in the world why I can't continue to do so. Even if I love them equally or go back and forth on which one I think is better, or I think there's some things in this one I like better than there's some things I like in this one better. There's no reason to give one up for the sake of liking another. It's madness.
Yeah.
It's like wanting to look for something to argue about, which I know is unheard of on the internet, but still.
Yep, agreed. Well, do you want to hear the rankings from the listeners?
Yes, let's.
Very interested.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks to everybody who did vote. I loved seeing all of these responses. I truly did. And again, the variety in the responses was really fun too. As Stuart said, I had a lot of fun crunching these numbers. It's so weird. I like to consider myself a creative person. My role is more creative in my day job, but there's a part of my brain that's a statistician. There's a part of my brain that just loves math, and I don't know what that is, but man, it was fun. It was very time consuming compiling all the votes, but it was fun nonetheless. So again,
I can just see Andy sitting there with an abacus and a smile doing this.
It was great. But
one of those little green visors with a cigarette and the
pretty much. But I did keep the voting only to Facebook, and so some of the Twitter people are like, well, I got rid of Facebook, and I'm like, I get it, but for me, it's just that way all the votes are in one place. And it's a lot, so it just makes my life easier. So for everybody who didn't get to vote, sorry, we love you, but I just like to keep it all in one place. So according to the listeners, what's funny is that the bottom two are there is a hair's breadth between the two. In fact, I got 3 last-minute votes right before we recorded, and the bottom 2 switched 3 times. That's how close they are.
Wow.
Like, they're so close.
If Zack Snyder's Justice League isn't number 1, are we going to have a version of like Rudy Giuliani out the front of a fucking, what was it, like in some car park, like debating the results of the election?
Oh, I'm like, where are you going with this? Why are we bringing up Rudy Giuliani? Well, we will see. So, all right.
Okay.
So where it ended up, and again, the tiniest little difference, the very bottom, number 11, is the theatrical cut of Justice League.
Wow.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Me either, because it's like what we said, is like Zack Snyder's Justice League makes the theatrical cut pretty much obsolete. And some people even said that in their votes. They're like, I'd probably have it higher, but like, why am I ever going to watch it now?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a huge shock that it would come in last.
I can't, everybody's got their own tastes and what have you, but I, for the life of me, could not possibly comprehend any person in the world, unless Joss Whedon ran over their damn puppy, would choose that after choosing Batman and Robin. I can't get my head around that. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I understand the bitterness and
You're not on Twitter anymore.
Yeah. I think that's just it.
Surrounds it. But,
it's not even about the movie.
No, it's not.
It's about everything else.
Okay.
All right. Number 10 is Batman and Robin. So Batman and Robin and Justice League were pretty consistently everybody's bottom 2. They just, varied a little bit.
Yeah.
Pretty consistent.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Although my wife voted, and so I love that Catherine voted. I think that's great. But she has Batman and Robin like relatively high. And one of the listeners even was like, "Hey, why is this so high?" And it's because she loves Poison Ivy. She just loves Poison Ivy, so that's why. Oh. And she goes, "I hope this isn't grounds for divorce." I'm like, "No, it's all good."
Yeah, I love her for no other reason than she refuses to march to anybody's beat but her own. As you just said a little while ago about somebody else, that's her to a T. I think you said it about Scotty. Yeah, I think you're just drawn to people like that.
I love the weirdos because I am one.
It's not grounds for divorce, but thankfully you impregnated her before this vote.
Well, I know, right? I mean, I'm not going to divorce her, but let's just say I put her pregnant ass on the couch for a weekend. Anyway, so yeah, Batman and Robin number 10. Not a huge shock. All right. So anyway, number 9. This one makes me kind of sad, if I'm being honest. But what are you gonna do? It's Batman the movie from 1966.
Yep. I kind of thought it'd come in around here because it's the old one.
Yeah, it's exactly.
If people are younger, they didn't grow up with it like we did.
Yeah.
Even though we weren't alive when it came out, but still, like I said, it was the only Batman content we had.
Right.
As kids.
Yeah. So
I feel like anybody younger than us just doesn't have any kind of attachment to that 66 era at all, because by that time it was no longer in syndication. This movie wasn't on Fox every weekend.
Yeah.
It's just not present in that pop culture for that next age bracket behind us.
Exactly. For the next generation. Oh, I think you were about to say the same thing, Brendan, but go ahead.
I was going to say, for Batman 89, like as big as it was, it also gave that show a massive resurgence.
Yes. Yeah. And what I was going to say is the next generation after us, by the time they got into Batman 89 was the old one. So like they could go back to that one, but they didn't feel like going back to all the way to 66. So I just feel like this isn't fair to that movie, but I'm also not shocked because yes, it's not as sexy as some of the other ones.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Like if it weren't for Justice League, it would probably either be the bottom or second from.
Yeah. All right. So what is that? 11, 10, 9. So Batman the movie number 9, and even our pal Jay Yaws, he goes, seeing how low this is on people's list makes me really sad. I think you guys need to do an episode just to get more people to watch it.
Did we do a commentary? Am I remembering that
I don't.
correctly?
I know we did an episode.
We did an episode maybe on it.
Yeah, I don't remember doing a commentary, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It's very possible it happened.
Yeah.
Over 300 episodes. It all gets a little fuzzy.
Maybe I'm Mandela affecting that with the pilot commentary we did, but I do know we've talked about it.
Yeah.
I feel like we talked about it probably in 2016 for, what would that have been, the 50th?
The 50th.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I don't think we've done a commentary. If we have, I sure don't recall doing it.
Yeah, me either.
And that's not one I would have been in a drunken stupor over.
Batman the movie was Catherine's last. It was last on her list. And she's when
a young one.
That was why she's like, I think this is one that we need to revisit because I don't know the last time I've seen it. So that was what started the conversation of, hey, maybe during maternity leave, we do a little Batman marathon. All right.
I'll be right over. I'll bring the popcorn.
Please do. We could use the extra hands anyway, because neither of us have had kids before. So this is going to be fun.
You've got a mother-in-law living with you, though.
She is here right now. That is true. All right, number 8.
The tone of his voice dropped like 7 octaves.
It did. It did.
It's great. It's great.
Oh.
I can't find anything because he just decides to put it in a different drawer for some reason. I don't know. The cereal's now on the left instead of the right. Why? I don't know.
Did she put a fork in the pancake drawer, though?
Oh, my God. I don't know what that means.
That's a Scrubs reference.
Scrubs.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I don't get that. But anyway. Number 8 is Batman Forever. So.
Yep. No surprises.
Yeah.
That checks out.
Yeah. It makes sense. Okay. Number 7, The Dark Knight Rises.
That's about where I had it, so I ain't mad at that.
Yeah. Number 6, Batman Returns. Which,
smack bang in the middle.
Yeah, smack in the middle, which again makes sense because you got people who love it, you got people who hate it, and everything in between. So when all that shakes out, right in the middle. Number 5, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I'm shocked it's that low. I figured it was going to be number 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is the reason you and I didn't have it higher is because, like, well, it's a Batman movie, but not really. You know, and I think that's maybe what holds it back. But that's not to say it's not a great movie.
I only say that because Justice League, the theatrical version, finishing dead last, I would think would have been the push for that to have been higher. Is all that goes through my head. So
I will tell you,
it's also the newest.
Yeah.
Still,
yeah. I will say our conversation has made me want to rewatch all of them. So I'm totally down.
Yep.
But certainly Zack Snyder's Justice League.
We get off this episode, I'm going straight upstairs, brushing my teeth, getting in bed, and watching Batman Begins.
Great. All right, so that's number 5. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
When I get up, I'm watching The Dark Knight.
Number 4, Batman v Superman. So
makes sense. It's about the same level as Justice League, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Especially, it makes sense considering our listenership. Because I feel like we love BVS. And I think a lot of listeners found us because we love BVS.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to me. Number 3, Batman, 1989.
I figured that would have been vying for the number 1 and 2 spot.
I mean, it was. It just got edged out.
I'm really keen to see how these next 2 play out.
Yeah.
It really could go either way.
I
have no idea. He shared none of these results with us, so we're getting the surprise just like everybody else here. So.
Well, I'll tell you, 2 and 3 were very close. Not as close as 10 and 11. 10 and 11 were literally like neck and neck. 2 and 3 though were pretty close, but number 1 is a clear winner. So number 2, Batman Begins.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And it all
checks out.
Like I said, Batman Begins and Batman were very close. And then number 1, not a huge shock, and I ain't mad at it, The Dark Knight.
Yep.
Now I can
I get
say
it.
that this show has not been for nothing.
Well, I mean, this now is the official list. This is now canon. We've
So I feel vindicated.
yeah.
So now both of you can kiss my ass. Mine
Okay.
won, yours didn't. Go away.
Great, congratulations.
Yeah.
That
what's the
and a
prize,
quarter
please?
will get you a cup of coffee.
I was going to say I'll take another sip of this beer that I already had opened. That's my prize.
Actually, I was just thinking, Andy, if you want to send me that list, and I'll do another letterboxed list because I do them all the time, and if you want to post a visual,
The Holy
once the
BatCast
episode's
listener
posted.
ranking.
Yeah, shoot me through the list and I'll do the graphic for you.
I'm capable of doing it myself. I know how to use Letterboxd.
You've got a baby on the way, and
I don't
everything.
yet.
It's just,
She's not here yet. I have 2 whole days.
I know, but okay.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, guys, yeah. Not a lot of surprises. Mostly, yeah. I'm trying to think of what's the most surprising. Is maybe BVS being as high as it is, and something like Batman the movie being as low.
Mine was Zack's Justice League being
in
quite unquote low.
Yeah, being 5.
I thought it'd be top 4 or 5. Top 3 or 4.
Okay.
My biggest surprise is the Justice League theatrical finishing dead last. And listen, I know the movie's not without its issues, and it's again the scathing shit that happened to bring us that film in the first place, which eventually led to bringing us Zack Snyder's Justice League. I mean, I get all that, but looking at it from an objective perspective, and I know you can't be wholly objective about any of this stuff, but seriously, somebody's actually going to pick Batman and Robin over that Justice League movie? I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I don't get my head around that at all.
I know. I mean, I agree with you. Do we really believe it is a worse movie than Batman and Robin? I don't think so either. But
that feels like spite voting to me. It doesn't feel like legitimate criticism voting, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I think that's fair. All right, but again, thank you guys for voting. I definitely appreciate it. It was really fun to see where this all shook out, and it's not a bad ranking. I can live with that. And it was really fun to do our ranking. So, thank you guys for doing that. But we're not ready to wrap up just yet because guess what? We watched the next episode of Batman Beyond. Who's ready to talk gorilla? All right.
Well,
so
Clint Eastwood is a really good song, so I mean, we can talk about whatever their catalog.
Oh, that is a good song. I forgot about that, but good call.
I prefer Dare personally.
All right, good. Okay, so what are we? Season 3, episode 6, Speak No Evil. This one was directed by Dan Reba, written by Stan Berkowitz. It aired on November 4th of 2000. And yeah, there's a talking gorilla. Batman's out there. There's a gorilla on the loose. He goes and tries to help capture it, realizes that this gorilla has been tested on, has been given human DNA, so it's super smart, and it's only getting smarter. And now it speaks English. Is this an origin for Gorilla Grodd? It could be. I don't know. It's possible.
Future Grodd, I guess.
Doesn't Gorilla Grodd come from the future?
So if you're using the timeline, I guess so. With Justice League and stuff, Gorilla Grodd was in that though.
Well, doesn't he? I thought Gorilla Grodd. I thought there was a version where he comes from the future, but maybe I'm mixing that up.
That I don't know. There's so many super smart gorillas in the DC universe.
There really are. That is accurate. Now we've got another one. This one, his name is Fingers. Yeah. Same thing my high school girlfriend called me.
I was going to say my cousin used to have a cat called Fingers, and I'm not even joking.
Anyway, so yeah, Fingers is out there. He pleads with Batman, of all people, being like, oh, they took my mother, and we have this flashback. It's kind of like a deleted scene from Tarzan. It reminded me a lot of Disney's Tarzan.
Very Tarzan.
Yeah.
And around the same time, too, that 99, 2000.
Totally. Yeah, it was a good time to be a gorilla in the movies. Mighty
Mighty
Joe
Joe
Young was around then. Congo. Oh man, the gorillas in the 90s and early
Oh,
2000s.
Marcel
Jesus, you
was
had
on
to
Friends.
say Congo, didn't you?
Yeah, it was the time. Anyway, so Batman is there's this other poacher with a cybernetic eye, and he's the problem. He's out there saying he's like a conservationist, but he's out there poaching and selling animals. He's the one who took Fingers' mom, and so Batman's like, okay, I'll stop him. And Fingers is like, okay, you got till dawn. And so Batman goes to stop this guy. I can't even remember his name, honestly.
Craven Stroke.
Yes, great. I like it. It's good. And he ends up getting captured, getting thrown in with the lions. Like literal lions, not like Michael Lyons and his wife. Like, because
I mean, I would love to be thrown in.
Because
there.
if Batman just got thrown into a cage with Michael and Michelle Lyons, they would just have a delightful conversation. But in this case,
It sounds very delightful.
yeah, I mean, you would talk about cartoons and holidays. It's great. Trust me, I highly recommend. But in this case, real lions with manes and stuff.
You'd even eat sushi in a bowling alley.
Yeah. And so Fingers shows up, and he and Batman team up, and they stop Craven. What was it? Craven shot? Craven dead
Craven
shot?
stroke.
Craven stroke. They stop him, and then Bruce and Terry take Fingers back to the jungle, and they're like, hey, we have this. It'll make you forget. And he's like, nope, I don't want to forget, because there are going to be more poachers. There are always more, and now they're going to deal with me. So this could be also like a backdoor pilot for the Fingers show, where he stops poachers every week. I'd watch.
Spoilers.
I wouldn't be
Sign
opposed.
me up for that series.
Yeah, wouldn't be bad. So
I'm still stuck on Craven Stroke.
Copyright Jamie Drewley.
That's my teen
Stroke.
years. That's my teen years. There's always Craven a stroke.
Oh, wow! You know we've been going too long when this is where we've gone.
I only call him Craven Stroke because lost character from Tiger King just takes too long to say.
You know what's funny is we just caught up on Tiger King, plus we watched the spin-off, the Doc Antle story. And
I haven't watched the Doc Antle one yet, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's just funny that I watched this and I was like, man, I feel like I just watched all of this already, because you're right. It is 100% in line with all that. All these people who call themselves like conservationists, and they've got charities, and really they're just exploiting these exotic animals for profit.
How that prick Jeff is not in prison after screwing that charity for, what was it, 16 million or something like that?
Yeah.
I have no idea how that bastard is not in the cell right next to Joe.
And
no idea.
Did you know, this is so off topic, but did you know that Tippi Hedren, do you know what she does? Is she, like, in her retirement years, she fights against these, like, big cat, quote unquote, shelters to get the big cats released, because she knows they're crooked.
At a girl.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, Tippi.
My wife and I said that after we finished the first season of Tiger King. It's like, the biggest problem with this show is all these assholes belong in prison. Every stank ass one of them. Like, there's people out there, free Joe. It's like, no, don't free Joe. Put everybody else in the cell next to him.
Tippi needs all the cats released so they can kill all the birds.
Oh.
I see what he did there.
Yeah. Anyway, Jamie, as our resident gorilla enthusiast, how did you feel about Speak No Evil?
Not the most amazing episode, but a lot more to like than not. Soft spot for gorillas, hyper intelligent or supersized gorillas are always entertaining to me in some fashion or another. And I liked it. I especially liked the end, in that he was like given the opportunity to return to his roots and basically be like somebody being plugged back into the Matrix, if you will. He's like, no, I'm going to do what I can to keep this from happening to the other gorillas that are out here. They need a defender to watch over them. So he's going to be like the dark ape watching over this jungle. I think that's a cool concept and a cool idea. And I seriously doubt it ever gets returned to or paid off, which is kind of unfortunate. But just the same, it left me with a warm feeling watching that. I don't think the villain was particularly strong in this episode, but for what they were presenting here, and again, the time constraints they deal with, I don't think he needed to make it a compelling or interesting story. And, kind of sad that he didn't get that reunification with his mother, but at the same time, that's kind of like that bittersweet sadness that improves the story or tugs. tugs at the heartstring a little bit more in that he's probably never going to see his mom again, but that doesn't keep him from being motivated to continue to pursue doing the right thing. Parallels with Batman in that moment, of course, too. So
I like The Dark Ape as the name of the spinoff show. I think that's good.
There actually is a Bat Ape. You know that, right?
Oh my God. I forgot until you just said it, but now I can picture it.
It was like from the 50s or 60s. It was in Detective Comics, and it was under the glass case at my shop. And I'm like, is this serious? Bat Ape? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how much is that? And he told me. I was like, no, not today, my good man.
I mean,
maybe it's one of those books that's...
Maybe this was a
one of those books that was just... Yeah, exactly. One of those books that was just valuable because of its age is what it was. But
yeah.
I couldn't justify several $100s for a book just because I think apes are cool.
Right. Brendan, what about you?
Look, it's not a bad episode. It's just not a good Batman episode. I was thinking about it before. This, to me, would be more suited as, part of, say, Justice League Unlimited. And, it'd be an episode where Vixen is teamed up with someone or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's this sort of thing, a talking gorilla. It's not what I want if I'm going to watch an episode of something Batman.
Well, nothing beats a talking goat going, Batman. That's still the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
So, yeah, I think it's an all right episode, but just not a good Batman episode.
Yeah, I am right there with you, Brendan. That's exactly how I felt. I'm like, it's not bad, but like this is not what I want from a Batman story. I don't want a talking ape and an evil poacher. Like, it just feels like a little too far away from what I want from Batman. And so
even for Batman Beyond,
it's.
Yeah.
But there are two things.
That's why it didn't bother me.
There are two things I want to give a shout out to. I think the animation in this episode was amazing. I don't know why, but as I was watching it, I was like, God, it looks so good. And I don't know if it was the ape, but like even the opening where you're seeing everything through the ape's eyes, I'm like, wow, that's like really impressive. The animation in this looked great. The other thing that was so cool was that the voice of Fingers was an actor named Malachi Throne. Do you guys know that name?
No.
I do.
So
but I don't know from where.
I saw the name and I was like, same. I went, I know that name. Why do I know that name? And he was Falseface in Batman 66.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little legacy casting here.
Nice.
Isn't that fun? That's kind of random, but fun. And also, he was the narrator, and this is really deep. Brendan, you might not have even heard of it. He was the narrator for the show Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp.
No.
I've never heard of it. So.
Oh my God. It was literally...
Sounds like something Scotty Hopkins would be all across.
Well, it was literally a show, and it was a detective show, but it starred only chimps. And... it was like a spoof.
How do I not know about this?
Oh my God, look it up. It was like a spoof of detective shows, and I want to say it was the 60s. And so basically they just had all of the chimps like chewing gum so their mouths would move, and then they just dubbed voices over them.
This sounds incredible.
It was insane.
How the F do I not know about this?
Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp, and Malachi Throne was the narrator, and I love that they were like, hey, he has Batman pedigree and he has ape pedigree, so this is our guy.
I figured I was going to read the credits and it was going to be, what's that guy's name? He always did the voices like, he was one of the werewolves in Underworld, and he has like this booming, deep voice. Like he's a Kevin Grev. Oh God, what's his name? I can't pronounce his last name.
I don't know.
But anyway, somebody out there knows who I'm talking about. That's who I thought it was going to be.
All right.
But it wasn't him.
Well, what's your letter grade for Speak No Evil, Jamie?
I'm on a B+ here, and you know it's a valid point about not being much of a Batman story, but since it was Batman Beyond, that doesn't faze me a bit, and I love apes, so B+.
Okay, Brendan?
C.
Yeah, same, C. It was fine, but yeah, it's just like okay. Again, you try something different.
I hope Craven Stroke shits in your Rice Krispies for that grade, both of you.
Oh my God. The irony is I was literally eating Rice Krispies when I watched it this morning. They were leftover
Funky?
Christmas Rice Krispies.
Bunky, how many times I got to tell you? The litter box. The litter box. Connell is the only person that got that if he's listening.
Yeah,
So anyway.
you missed me again. I'm sorry.
It's Police Academy 2.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. You just shook loose another memory. I remember what you're talking about. Okay. Anyway, Speak No Evil, 2 C's and a B+. All right, good. Jamie bringing up the average a little bit. Next one is a two-parter, and it's a really good one, guys.
Wait, hold up. We can't get a two-parter for the Roz story, but we get a two-parter after the ape?
I know, it's weird, right?
That's some bullshit.
Well, speaking of, the next ones are co-written by Paul Dini.
All right.
And it is The Call, parts 1 and 2.
So just going to be on the phone the whole time?
Yep, exactly. It's like kind of like a version of Phone Booth, but it's with Batman.
Little did these fools know that in the future nobody calls anybody. It's all text now.
I know. So anyway, there you go. The Call, two-parter for next time. I mean, and because it's a two-parter, it could just maybe be its own episode. I feel like it's going to be a while before we get to it, to be fully honest.
Gee, why would you say that?
I have a hunch. But when the time comes, when we reconvene, and after we talk about the Batman, and we come back to Batman Beyond, I just feel like for a two-parter, and especially this two-parter, I think it could maybe be its own episode. So take that as you will.
All right, then.
All right. Well, there you go. That's it for Batman Beyond. But we're still going. This is a long one. This is a supersized episode, guys. I hope you'll forgive us. But hey, man, if we don't do it now, I don't know when we'll get to it because there's a baby coming. So
this
now,
is like Andy's bachelor party. Since this is the last podcast he's ever going to do,
yeah,
as a pre-fathered man,
yeah,
we're hooking it up like a bachelor party. This is like our weekend in Vegas as far as podcasting goes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, but instead of a stripper, I get you two. And don't get me wrong,
if you want to turn
I love you both, but it's not the same.
If you want to turn the camera on, we can accommodate. I'm not wearing any pants as it is. So.
You know what? You're a true friend for offering, but I'm okay right now. But thank you.
Brendan, and I can do Sugar and Spice cosplay for you.
Okay, now we're talking. Now I'm in. You sold me. Okay, so let's crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. Sizzle, Master Wayne.
And I forgot to call you guys Fine Feathered Finks, but you are still Fine Feathered Finks. Don't you worry. All right, what do we got here in the Wayne Manor mailbox? First of all, it's old Julian Chan, Jazzy Jules. It says, hey, Andy, Jamie, and Brendan. Hope you're doing well. First up, I want to congratulate Holy BatCast on 8 wonderful years of Bat goodness and keeping us Bat fans entertained. There's no podcast I look forward to more than yours. Thought I'd get an email in before the birth of Barbara, Carrie, Cassandra, Stephanie DiGenova.
Well done, sir.
Perfect. 2 things. Number 1, would you like to see Punchline in live action one day going up against Margot Robbie's Harley? And who would play her? Off the top of my head, I'd say maybe Sophia Boutella. 2, back in the day, Marvel Comics used to have adjectives for a lot of their titles, like The Amazing Spider-Man, The Uncanny X-Men, The Incredible Hulk. I want you guys to put on your Stan Lee hat and come up with some adjectives for Batman. Feel free to extend it to other characters if you like. I'm so looking forward to the Batman, but alas, cinemas are shut down right now in Hong Kong. Hopefully they'll lift the restrictions in March. Otherwise, I'll be like Bart missing the Itchy and Scratchy movie. Ciao for now, Jazzy Jules. Good reference. Itchy and Scratchy movie. All right. Thank you, Julian. Always good to hear from you. Number 1, would you like to see Punchline in live action? And who should play her? Jamie.
Yeah, I think I would. That was a Tynan created character, so I'd be in for that because I'm a Tynan fan. I thought her origin and introduction was a pretty interesting story. Am I being slightly racist, or does she not look Asian to anybody but me?
She could, yeah. It's hard.
So
it's hard
think
to
I
tell.
Would go with,
yeah.
I think I would go with an Asian actress for her. My hang up would be I'm not familiar enough with Asian actresses that are like younger than, say, I don't know, Michelle Yeoh or or somebody like that to play the part. I guess you could probably go to like Ali Wong's probably just out of the ballpark to play her, and she's already been used in a DC movie, not very well in my opinion. But I don't know who I would pick, but I would go for like a young up and coming Asian actress to play that part, I think.
All right, Brendan.
Look, I don't know enough about the character to really comment. I've never read her at all. Is she the one that was Joker's daughter?
No.
No.
She was a much meaner, more sadistic kind of like Harley 2.0.
She's not Harley with the humor.
Exactly.
I mean, take the humor out of Harley. That's Punchline.
Yeah. Again, just a much meaner sidekick for the Joker.
Okay. Well, while you were talking, Jamie, I kind of did a quick Google for I just looked at like young Asian actresses, and is it Jenny Ortega? It was like the second lead in the new Scream movie. I mean, if you're wanting to cast like a sort of an up and comer or like someone who's a bit of an it girl at the moment, you could maybe go with her. But yeah,
she was the sister, right?
The sister, yeah, the one who was in hospital.
Yeah, she was great.
So I just don't know enough about the character to have a real opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'll say I love Punchline. I thought she was a great creation, and I hope she continues. So yes, I think her versus Harley would be awesome. As for who should play her, I'd have to think about it. Sophia Boutella, I think, is a great choice. So I'm going to go with you, Jules, until I can think of something better. And then if we were going to give an adjective to Batman, what would you give him, Jamie?
The dashing Dark Knight.
Oh, nice. Brendan, thoughts?
The beautiful Batman? I don't know. I don't know, because it's the trying to be, what do you call it? Like phonetically...
Yeah. Alliteration?
Yeah. Alliteration, that's what I'm looking for.
It doesn't have to be.
Bewildering Batman.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's
the Batscaped Batman. I mean,
I was thinking the bastard Batman, but it's not like he doesn't have his father, but he knows who his father is, so that doesn't work either.
It could be the goddamn
sounded
Batman.
Way too Australian. If Bruce Wayne was Australian, that works, but not in America. No.
Yeah. I'm. Jeez, Julie, you've got me there.
I mean, it's not the most original, but I'm gonna go with the mysterious Batman. Till I come up with something better.
Yeah.
All right. Next message is from Mark Jurasevic. It says, "Hey guys, I enjoyed one of the listener questions about how viewing habits have changed over time with the advent of DVD, DVR, and streaming. I agree that we can be more scrutinizing about what we watch compared to the old days, although I look back on those days fondly. I was wondering what shows you loved to watch as a kid and what you watched because there was nothing else on. I'll keep it to the after-school 5 to 6 p.m. time bracket and compare similar shows. Lost in Space, Gilligan's Island, Batman 66, Tarzan, Land of the Giants. I couldn't wait for these shows to come on. I loved Gilligan's Island, but I only tolerated Green Acres. I loved The Munsters, but not so much The Addams Family. I loved Bewitched, but only tolerated Nanny and the Professor in I Dream of Jeannie, although I started to appreciate the latter as I got older due to Barbara Eden. I loved The Brady Bunch, but hated The Partridge Family. I loved Get Smart, and then I thought Hogan's Heroes was okay. What are some of your faves and not so favorites? Anyway, by the time you read this, Andy, you're probably a proud father. I hope everything went well and that mom and baby are in good health. Regards, Mark." Thanks, Mark. We still got 2 days, but thank you. And I will be proud in 2 days. All right. So any shows that like you loved regardless and any that you just watched because they were on? Jamie?
The stuff that I feel like I watched the most, we had this show called Happy's Place, which is kind of a knockoff of the Bozo show that was on WGN back in the day. And he would show like G.I. Joe and Transformers every day. So I was like hip deep into both of them. So I would watch those. If you're talking more about the syndicated older shows that were playing in reruns, Bewitched was a big one, a little bit of Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island was one for me. The Monkees, that was one I got into for a while because my mom really liked the Monkees. So we'd watch that together. Stuff I didn't like, I wasn't into the Partridge Family at all. I never feel like the Munsters or the Addams Family was on, so I never really watched any of that stuff, which is kind of weird because I really like it, but I didn't grow up with it, I guess is what I'll say there. Like, I think the Addams Family was on Scooby-Doo at least once, and that might have been how I got switched on to the Addams Family.
Well, Hanna-Barbera had an Addams Family cartoon.
Yeah, but that wasn't even what I saw, though. It was like, I had this discussion with Andy the other day. The only reason I knew who Phyllis Diller was is because she was on Scooby-Doo once, you know?
I had to Google Phyllis Diller. I wasn't too sure.
She's great. Watch her stand up on YouTube. You can find all kinds of her stuff.
I
on there.
love that story, Andy. That was awesome.
She's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely. But Carol Burnett show, that's one I feel like I watched a lot. Mama's Family.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in there, man. I could go on for days with the stuff that I grew up watching, but it feels to me like the one that sticks out most is G.I. Joe and Transformers on Happy's Place every day after school.
All right, Brendan, what about you? I mean, it's going to be different, right? I don't know.
Well,
Australian options?
Yes and no. I mean, we'd have the old syndicated stuff as well. Like Get Smart would be on most weekends, like around sort of that 5:30 to put something on like before the news. So I used to watch that quite a bit, and I used to really like Get Smart. I actually wouldn't mind revisiting it, to be honest, because it's a pretty funny show.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah, stuff like Munsters and Addams Family I used to watch as well. A big one for me was just like the old Looney Tunes cartoons.
Yeah.
There was a massive period in my childhood where one of the main networks over here would show 3 Looney Tunes cartoons back to back to back at like 5:30 every afternoon. And again, that would kind of be the lead into the news. So like, you know, I would have had my shower by that time, or shower or bath, and like mum would be getting dinner ready and dad would be doing whatever. And Looney Tunes would be on. But like even stuff like Mr. Ed used to be on like most mornings, sort of after your morning shows had finished and everything. So I was exposed to a lot of that stuff. Stuff like Gilligan's Island, Lost in Space. They're the sort of ones that I know get mentioned a lot, but I never saw those growing up. But I would occasionally see stuff like Bewitched and I Dream, probably lesser I Dream of Jeannie and more Bewitched. But I Love Lucy was another one that I used to see quite a bit as a kid. It would be on.
That was one that was always around.
Some evenings as well. Yeah, but I mean the stuff for me, like it was because I think just because I'm that bit younger, it was all contemporary stuff, like you know the Ninja Turtles cartoon and you know like reruns of like the Flintstones and like a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff and everything. So yeah.
All right. Well, so of the ones that I watched that I legitimately loved, it was stuff like Batman 66, obviously, The Brady Bunch, The Munsters. Like that was stuff I watched because I really wanted to watch. But like Gilligan's Island, like it was fine, but I'd watch it just because it was on. You know, that was one of those where it was like I would never go out of my way to watch it, but it was always on. So I was like, I guess I'm watching it. Partridge Family, I'd only watch the beginning when they were all cartoons. And then as soon as the actual episode started, I would change the channel. And this is very random, but it was because it felt like it was always on, especially on the weekends. And I never really even liked the show, but it was the only thing on. So I guess we would watch it, is What's Happening and What's Happening Now.
Oh, I love What's Happening. Like, oh my God, Rerun and Raj.
Yeah, like I'd watch it, but it was like never something I was into, but it was like, well, it's on and it's on after cartoons. So I guess I'll watch it.
And that theme song, boy, that's an earworm.
Oh,
I'm going to be walking around whistling that on the way up the stairs to watch Batman Begins tonight.
Yeah, no, that's true. The theme song is legit.
I've never heard of it.
It's not lasted in pop culture. Like it's not like
Rerun has
a little, but and Shirley wasn't
Brent,
Shirley in that? Shirley.
Yes.
Was there something about Scrubs?
I was just getting ready to say it, Brendan. You watched Scrubs, so trust me, you've seen Rerun and you've seen references to this show a lot.
Yeah, that's why it's starting. When you said Rerun, I'm like, oh, hang on, and I jumped straight to Scrubs.
All right, let's move forward. Next one's from Carrie Vandenberg. It says, "Hey, it's been a while since I've written in. I hope you're doing well. I look forward to seeing baby Batgirl pics, Andy. I simply want to say that I feel like I'm in a similar boat with you guys as Matt when it comes to Matt Reeves' Batman. While I like what I see, I do have some misgivings, and it is feeling like Nolan 2.0 with the realism. Catwoman's ski mask instead of a cowl, and Riddler's outfit. I think I'm hesitant about being excited, mainly because it's the start of a new version of the character when I didn't get to say goodbye to Affleck's version or see the completion of that story. I'm one who campaigned for the Snyder Cut, and I hope that the new bosses, with Zaslav and Discovery, bring Snyder back to the table after the merger. I guess I'm just spoiled in that I got a complete story with Nolan's trilogy, and as an MCU fan, I've seen the conclusion to certain characters like Cap and Iron Man, and then passed the baton to other characters. We didn't get that with Cavill's Superman or Affleck's Batman, so it's hard to get excited about the next thing when the previous version wasn't complete. WB is just sidestepping all of it with its current focus. I'm excited for Aquaman 2, I'm curious about Black Adam, and I'm nervous about The Flash, but I'm not excited about the universe as a whole. Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts, and I'm guessing you guys can resonate with at least some of it. I'm going to give the Batman a fair shot, but I'm not ready to get emotionally invested beforehand. All the best, Carrie Vanderberg." Thanks, Carrie. I think I understand your point, and I get it, especially with Cavill's Superman even more so than Affleck's Batman, because all signs point that we will get to say goodbye in The Flash, so at least they're allowing us some closure there. Of course, would we have liked more before we got to closure? I think we're all on the same page. The answer is yes, we would have, but at least they're allowing that. To not have that for Cavill Superman is a disappointment, so I do get that. So yeah, totally see where you're coming from, and we'll see how it goes. And I think that's just the DC fan in us is because of the DCEU, it got messy, and because of that messiness, yeah, it's just not as clean as I think any of us would like it. Jamie, any thoughts?
No, but I think his point is perfectly valid about not getting the closure or the ability to say goodbye. Obviously with the Flash movie, we might get that chance with Ben, but by any account I've heard, it doesn't sound like we're ever going to get that opportunity with Henry. So I get where you're coming from. I'm still excited about the slate and what they're going to do with the universe going forward, which obviously we think Flash is going to be pivotal there. But yeah, I get where he's coming from. I see it.
Mm-hmm. Brendan?
I was thinking about this only this morning, actually, and I think in the past, I know the turnaround between when The Dark Knight Rises came out and the announcement of Affleck being Batman was very quick. It was like just shy of, or just over 12 months. And with that movie getting pushed back the 2 or 3 times that it did, it ended up being 3 years between, when we last saw Bale take to the big screen and then Affleck with BVS. So, there was that bit of distance, whereas there's no distance this time around. There's overlap. And I think that might be a big reason of why my excitement for this movie. Look, yeah, I know we've said I haven't liked a lot of the athletic choices made, but I do think that's a big part of it, because I haven't been starved of Batman for an extended period of time. Like I said, it's not even 12 months when this movie comes out that we got Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was essentially a new movie. Mm-hmm. And we know there's more of that version of the character coming, whether it's the swan song or not. That story's still continuing, and I'm still invested in that story. So yeah, I do think that could be a big part of why my excitement. And at the moment, there is genuine excitement. We were saying this before we started recording this morning. I am legitimately really looking forward to this movie now, the way the marketing's ramping up and everything. But it still just feels different. And I was really trying to think as to why. And that so far, I think, is a major reason. But, I'm still keen to give it its fair shot. I'm still genuinely looking forward to it. It's becoming my slowly becoming like it's the background on my laptop at the moment. It's the background on my work computer. It's the background on my phone. I don't do that for things that I'm not looking forward to. I think I said last week, like I went and bought the bloody prequel novel and everything. Like I'm really starting to come around to it, and all the marketing like Pattinson on talk shows and stuff, like just that guy's enthusiasm. Like I'm really rooting for him in this role, whether I like the look of his costume or not. And I hope he crushes it. I really do. But yeah, this just feels different.
Well, and I think we talked about it. I think it was the last episode where we said if we had gotten a fully fleshed out universe with Affleck in between, I think things would be a little different. But that didn't quite happen, and so we are where we are. All right, next message is from Jed Baker. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCasters. Up until now, I've been one of the thousands of silent listeners, but I finally got my ass in gear to get in touch. No questions today, but I just wanted to thank the three of you, Andy, Jamie, and Brendan, for turning a nostalgic revisit of the Batman films at the start of COVID into an obsession for life. Your ever-optimistic outlooks on all things DC are truly infectious. Thank you for all your hard work in putting the show together, Jed." Thanks, Jed. Thanks for finally writing us. Yeah, nice to hear from you and to meet a new listener, and we appreciate the kind words. That's great.
Cheers.
Yeah. Everybody out there listening,
another reason to drink tonight.
Yeah. All right, next one is from Dylan Wilkinson. It says, "Hey, it's my first time remembering to write in and say thank you for all the great content and for keeping me entertained these last 4 years of listening. I look forward to every Real Fans show on the network and also the ones related to you guys like The Nightlight and Dark Tower Radio. You guys sparked my enjoyment for Batman up 10 notches with the animated movies and TV shows. I've really enjoyed watching Batman the Animated Series, and I'm still waiting for the Dark Knight Returns review and the Batman Returns commentary. I just wanted to bring up that a lot of people are exposed to Batman as kids, with my favorite kids show SpongeBob playing on Batman and Robin, Adam West and Burt Ward. I see. With a twist of Aquaman giving us a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy crime fighters. They're long past their prime, but can still kick some butt. And some episodes, they also show the parody of the Justice League with the IJLSA. The International Justice League of Super Acquaintances. And when they show younger versions of Mermaid Man, sometimes he was voiced by Adam West. All of this is leading to, what is your favorite superhero parodies of beloved superheroes? Anyway, sorry for the long essay. Hope you have a great 2022. And I hope Jamie will return my smoke signals about the Star Wars sequels." Dylan. Thanks, Dylan. I've never really watched SpongeBob, but I feel like I've seen images of these Barnacle Boy and what is it? Mermaid Man?
Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, which Mermaid Man basically looks like Aquaman with a starfish on his face.
Right.
And Barnacle Boy is like the sidekick. The funnest part about them, and it's kind of sad at this point, but I mean, while it was going, it was fantastic. The voices were Ernest Borgnine and Tim Conway.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What's a Tim Conway?
About $1.50.
Okay. All right, so a favorite spoof of superheroes. Any thoughts, Jamie?
Favorite spoof. This is going to be kind of an oddball answer because it's not exactly what he's asking for, but like of course we all know there used to be like the Marvel comic called What If, and there may even still be around once in a while where they kind of toy around. In fact, they did an animated series on Disney Plus about it, which was mostly pretty cool from what I haven't finished it yet. But anyway, there used to be another one that was called What the.
Oh, I remember What the.
And that was a blast because they would do nothing but make fun of these characters.
Yeah.
Like my favorite one of those, because that same friend, he blocked that shit. We got this issue because the Punisher War Journal number, I believe it was 6 and 7, where Wolverine was fighting the Punisher, was like a huge deal back in like the early 90s. And What the spoofed that fight, and my God, we were busting a gut laughing at that thing.
Oh my
Because
God.
I don't remember what Wolverine was called, but the Punisher was called the Pun Fisher. So he was actually Tim Rooney with a big gun.
Oh,
But
great.
anyway, yeah. So I guess that'd be my answer. Is I just loved that because it was so goofy.
Oh, What The was super fun. Oh, it's a great choice.
It was great. I loved it.
Brendan, any thoughts?
I don't know if it'd be a spoof, but like Darkwing Duck.
Oh,
comes to
yeah.
mind.
I think it counts.
Kind of counts.
But there was one, and it jumped into my head. I haven't thought about it for years, and I was just Googling it while you guys were talking. And I was right. It was a Disney cartoon, Pith Possum.
Oh,
Do
I
you
don't
remember that, Andy?
No, that doesn't even sound familiar.
I think you just sent up the Michael Lyons / Scott Hopkins signal with that one.
Yeah, it was like a direct piss take of Batman. But he was this possum, and he had this weird little sidekick that looked like Robin. Apparently it only lasted 13 episodes. It was a part of the Schnookums and Meat funny cartoon show.
Oh my god, that's so random. I remember Schnookums and Meat, but I never watched it, which is probably why I don't remember Pith Possum.
Are you guys even speaking English right now?
But that's another one that jumps to mind. As a kid, I remember really liking it because it was just a direct piss take on Batman and Robin.
Yeah. Well, the one that sprung to mind was when SNL did Superman's funeral. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was great because Chris Farley was the Hulk.
Chris Farley is the Hulk, and Sinbad is Black Lightning.
Yes.
And they wouldn't let him in the funeral, and he's like, "Come on, Black Lightning."
That was wonderful. I love that.
And then I think it counts, is the live action Tick show with Patrick Warburton was amazing.
Oh, the animated series of The Tick was great. I never watched the live action one.
I watched the Amazon one that came out a couple of years ago too, and that one was pretty good, but I lost track of it. But the Patrick Warburton one, it was only, I think, 13 episodes, but highly recommend. It's hysterical. All right, let's move forward. Next one is from Jonathan Mercado. It says, "Hey, fellow Bat Brothers. It's been a while since I've written in, and now that we're getting closer to the Batman, I'd like to thank all the actors who played the live-action Batman. For better or worse, all these actors had or gained great notoriety for other projects. Do you have any favorite acting credits for each actor outside of Batman, starting with Adam West and ending with Pattinson? Mine would be Adam West, Captain Blasto, Rugrats? Is that someone in Rugrats?
I guess he was a character on Rugrats, I suppose. I don't know.
Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice, Val Kilmer, The Doors, George Clooney, Up in the Air, Christian Bale, The Prestige, Ben Affleck, Argo, and Robert Pattinson, The Lighthouse. Happy 8th anniversary to Holy BatCast, and congrats, Andy, on the future baby girl. She's going to make a great Batgirl alongside Henry as Robin. Much love and respect, John Cato." Thanks, John Cato. All right, so favorite roles. Adam West. We'll do them one at a time. Jamie?
Oh, I don't like the show, but it did make me laugh once in a while. But Adam West played himself as Mayor West on Family Guy. And he almost always made me laugh whenever he would be on the show.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Brendan?
Can I say The Great Ghost?
Yes, you can.
Well, I'm saying The Great Ghost.
Yeah, Adam West is the trickiest one, I think. I'll go a step further, is when he played Thomas Wayne in The Brave and the Bold. No? You don't remember?
No, I don't.
I do.
That's The Chill of the Night.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Michael Keaton. Jamie?
He's done a lot of really great stuff, but man, how do you go against Beetlejuice here?
I know, right? I'm trying to think of something that's not Beetlejuice.
I'm trying to think of something else, but it's like, wow.
Maybe the best is the best. I don't know.
I'll throw one at you.
Okay.
I really liked him in The Founder.
Oh, he was amazing. That's the problem, is he's always great.
Christ, yeah. Brendan, thanks. Now I got to go get a Big Mac at 11 o'clock at night.
Well, I'll throw this out there because it is an underappreciated gem. And so if you're looking for an amazing comedy, it's so good, and he's so good in it, The Dream Team. You guys...
Is that the one with Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah. It's him.
I saw that in the theater. I remember nothing about it.
Yeah, it's him, Christopher Lloyd, Peter Boyle, and Stephen Furst. And they are 4 escaped mental patients, and it's amazing.
Was They like go out to see a baseball game
Yep.
or something, don't they?
Yep, they get a day pass to go to a baseball game, and their doctor gets mugged, and then they're let loose in the city, and it's amazing. Highly recommend.
I just recently watched Clean and Sober on HBO, on HBO Max, and the movie itself was solid enough, but Keaton's performance in that movie was, I mean, he's always good. But
Yeah. Oh, Multiplicity. Multiplicity. Come on, he plays
I've
4.
never seen that.
Oh, whoa.
That's what I thought. That's the one I thought you were gonna say was Multiplicity.
Well, yes, you should see that. That is also great.
Mr. Mom?
Yes. Sorry, let's move forward. Val Kilmer, Jamie.
Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say was Tombstone.
That is the correct answer. Absolutely, 100%. George Clooney. Jamie?
Come back to me on Clooney. I'll have to think about it for a second. Oh, nope.
Yeah.
I take that back. Seth Gecko in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, okay. Brendan?
I'm actually not too sure. Like, he was good in The Peacemaker, but now that I think about it, I don't know if I've actually seen too many George Clooney movies.
What? Okay.
I don't know.
It's Booker in Roseanne.
Nice.
But for real, Up in the Air is a great choice. I'll also say Out of Sight. Out of Sight's awesome.
The Monuments Men. Sorry, The Monuments Men. I forgot about that one.
All right. Christian Bale. Jamie?
I mean, he's off the chain in almost everything he's in. So
He's got some talent, that guy.
He does. I mean, American Psycho is what made me a fan of his, but frankly, just because I think the movie is so great and I still think it's underappreciated, even though it did get some accolades, is Ford versus Ferrari. He was so damn good.
Oh,
at
yeah.
that.
That's awesome.
Or even Christ, what was it? The Fighter?
You only get to pick one, but yes, I was going to say The
I
Fighter.
can't. It's Christian. You can't make me pick one on Christian Bale. You can't do it. No. Because he's great in everything.
All right. Well, I was going to say The Fighter. Brendan?
Well, I love The Prestige, but I was going to say Equilibrium.
Oh, okay.
It was really good. I mean, that's apparently what won him the role as Batman, is they saw him in Equilibrium and loved him. And yeah, it's a really good movie if you've never seen
To
it.
this day, I'm stunned at how few people have seen that movie.
It's good. It's really
Yes,
good.
it is.
Mm-hmm. Affleck. Jamie?
I mean, I
In
just
the
watched
back of a Volkswagen. That good dude from Fashionably Male.
I just watched The Town the other day for the first time since it first hit home video. And I feel like that's what led to kind of his getting out from underneath the reputation of not being a great actor or being a slack ass or whatever dragged him down for a little while there. I feel like that's the one that got him climbing out of that hole. And he was really good in that. But my personal favorite, and this probably isn't going to get me put on anybody's Christmas card list, Jersey Girl.
You're going to say Jersey Girl. I knew you were going to say Jersey Girl.
I friggin' love that movie, and I will never apologize for it.
All right. Okay. Brendan?
The Accountant. I love
Good
The
choice.
Accountant.
Good choice.
But I will also throw in The Way Back. He was very good in that. And it was kind of a bit autobiographical, I think, in terms of the story for that one. But yeah, The Accountant's top notch.
All right. The correct answer is Phantoms, yo. But kind of joking, but kind of not, is Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. Because that was when I was like, I love this guy. He's not
He's
afraid
so
to make
good.
fun of himself. He's amazing.
Have you guys ever seen Extract by chance?
No.
No.
Okay, it was done by Mike Judge, who is of Beavis and Butthead and Office Space fame. And Ben Affleck has like a small recurring role in that film as like a bartender that's hysterical. And the movie's not really that great. It's Jason Bateman's the lead, Mila Kunis.
That's right. It's the one with Jason Bateman.
But Affleck is hilarious in that movie.
All right. Pattinson. Jamie?
I haven't seen him in a damn thing except for the first Twilight movie, so I guess that by default.
Brandon?
I too haven't seen him in a hell of a lot. He was good in Harry Potter, but again, it was a very small role. And
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
right. He
really,
was.
I mean, I have to say Tenet. I think it's really the
Yes.
Oh, I
thing
did see
aside.
Tenet. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tenet.
Yep.
Yeah,
I forgot
aside
he was
from
even in that.
aside from the first Twilight that I saw because I wanted to give that a shot because hey, it was vampires, and Harry Potter. I think Tenet's really the only thing I've seen him in. And I mean, he was really, really good in that movie. But I do want to see Good Time because apparently he's fantastic in that, and that was again kind of like Bale with Equilibrium. Apparently, that's kind of part of what got him the role for the Batman.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going with Tenet too. I think he was so good in that. All right, let's move forward. Still got a few more of these. Next one's from David Ramirez. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast crew, in your recent favorite Batman things episode, one of the categories was a favorite Batman thing that you own. I wanted to share a DC item collection that I have. Back in the mid-90s in Mexico, Pepsi had a promotion involving DC trading cards. I spent several of my childhood summers in Mexico City and happened to be there during this promotion. It was 100 cards plus 17 holograms and metallic cards that you collected in an album. They had cool art on the front and some history on the back. It had all the major and not so major heroes and villains. I've been a Batman fan since '89, but this was my entry into the broader DC world. I don't remember how it worked exactly. I think you traded Pepsi bottle caps for a pack of cards. My grandma owned a storefront in a market, but she sold Coca-Cola. The neighboring stall sold Pepsi, so we struck a deal with the other business and tried to collect as many as we could. Ultimately, I was able to collect the 100 main cards, but I came up short on the special metallic and holograms. I just wanted to share, and I'm curious if any of you or the listeners knew about this. Anyway, sorry for the long email. Wishing everyone the best. Thank you for the podcast, David." Thank you, David. So David did put some photos in here of these trading cards, and I gotta say, I think they were maybe Mexico only because I do not recognize them, but there's some really cool artwork on here. I definitely collected a lot of trading cards in my youth, especially the comic book ones, but this one, yeah, these ones do not look familiar, but they're very cool. I'm going to share them on the page when the time comes after this episode is posted. So thanks, David. Jamie, thoughts?
I know you had that X-Men card set with those holograms and everything, didn't you?
Obviously.
I had like 5 full sets of those things, man. I was hip deep into those. These I'm not familiar with. I've never heard of this. And if they were Mexico only, I bet they're really difficult to track down over here unless somebody put them in the trunk of a car and drove them across the border because you can't do mail service between the U.S. and Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So that would, stifle eBay trading or anything like that unless somebody, like I say, actually put them in a car and drove them over the border.
Yeah. Brandon?
I mean, obviously know nothing about the Pepsi ones, but Batman trading cards were a huge part of my Batman fandom as a kid. Like from Batman Returns all the way through to Batman and Robin, I collected all the trading cards. I even bought like a complete set of trading cards from Batman Begins. I didn't collect them per se and like going to get the packets and seeing what ones I got. But in 2005, there was a shop I was in that had a complete set of Batman Begins trading cards. I was like, hell yeah. But no, that was a huge part of Batman fandom as a kid was the trading cards.
Yep. I also had the Batman animated series ones. Those were super cool.
They were. I didn't get the full sets of them, but I did have the odd pack here and there.
Yeah.
I've still got them here somewhere. Actually.
Oh, me too. I don't know where, but I got them. All right. Next message from Austin. It says, "Hey guys, 3 really quick questions. Number 1, have you read Batman Earth 1 Volume 3? If so, thoughts? Number 2, a lot of people talk about the perfect age for Robin if he gets to be in the new Batman series. Do you think it's better to go 13 to 15 or 17 to 20? Personally, I prefer younger. It gives Batman and Robin a more father-son dynamic rather than an older and younger brother. 3, do you feel the marketing for the Batman has been too much or just right? Thanks so much." Number 1, Batman Earth 1 Volume 3. Jamie?
I haven't even read Volume 1 or 2, so no.
Brendan?
I haven't read 3, but I really liked 1 and 2.
Well, Volume 1 and Volume 2 I thought were amazing. Volume 3, I was let down, if I'm being honest. It was kind of disappointing.
That's why I haven't rushed to get it.
Yeah, it was disappointing. Perfect age for Robin. Jamie?
I like that 14, 15 age for him. I think that just fits with what I know as Robin and what most people would generally view as Robin.
All right, Brendan.
Well, I agree for the fact that we haven't seen that before. We did the brotherly thing in the 90s. Titans, Robin's older, / became Nightwing, and obviously like Jason's older as well. But I think it was in one of the press things this week, someone asked Pattinson about it, and he said he'd like to be around the age of 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. A younger teenager, I think, works because it gives you more places to go. Like 13, like maybe that's a little young, but I think 14 or 15 would be totally fine. And then do you think the marketing for the Batman has been too much or just right, Jamie?
I guess it was for a Batman movie. I think it's probably just right. I don't want to say too much because I don't really have TV anymore. I cut the cord, so I'm basing it off of what I see on like YouTube or posters at the theater or stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't seem to be out of hand to me.
All right, Brendan.
Look, for over here, it's a bit different. Like, we don't have like all the toys and stuff like you guys do. There's a small smattering of it in like your Big W and Targets and things like that. But I saw my first TV spot for it yesterday on ESPN while I was watching a basketball game. It feels about right. It feels a little less than BVS, but like I haven't seen like stores selling shirts and things like that yet. So I'm hoping that might start to happen in the next couple of weeks. But it feels maybe a little bit less, but I know it's definitely more over there than it is here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it feels just about right. It certainly is everywhere. I do feel like it's everywhere. I feel like I've seen it in theaters. I've seen posters. I see it all over online. Like I don't have TV in the traditional sense, so I don't know about TV spots, but like I do feel like it's everywhere in the way an event film should be everywhere. I don't feel like it's too much in that they're giving too much away or that I feel like I'm being beat over the head with it. So I think it's right because we've certainly had those movies where you're like, oh my God, stop shoving it down my throat. If I promise to go, will you stop? Like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's what I remember about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like they just pushed it so hard where you're like, okay, what is going on? Relax. We'll go see it. Just stop. But I don't feel that way about the Batman. All right. Next message is from Will Byler. It's almost like Will Byer. He says, hey, Bat fam, long-time listener, first-time writer. Oh, hey, got another first-time writer. Says, I work in the human services field as a substance abuse counselor. That being said, a universal element of addiction is trauma. As often, there's a direct correlation between trauma and developing a substance abuse disorder. This is also true with superheroes we adore. Every dang one of them has a traumatic history. My question for you, Bat Brothers, is why do you think this is? Why is it the Batman losing his parents that makes him feel so relatable? His fight for justice so righteous and cathartic? Is it the universal trauma we all have experienced, which is more prevalent now in a most COVID world than ever? What are your thoughts? Also, I wanted to send a list of my dream directors and the DC projects. Let me know what you think. George Miller, Justice League, Rock of Ages, or No Man's Land. Denis Villeneuve, Batman Beyond. Jennifer Kent, Batgirl. Jordan Peele, Justice League Dark. David or Brandon Cronenberg, Animal Man or Swamp Thing. Edgar Wright, Young Justice or Doom Patrol. Alex Garland, Dredd 2. Jeremy Saulnier, The Question. Ryan Johnson, Green Lantern. Robert Eggers, Jonah Hex or Deadman. Nicholas Winding Refn, Catwoman or Zoriel. Ava DuVernay, New Gods. Claire Dennis, Martian Manhunter, Miss Martian. Seriously, I love your show so goddamn much. It has served as a beautiful respite from the burdens of my profession, and I sincerely look forward to each and every episode, despite the Grant Morrison bashing. Seriously, what's wrong with you? Final Crisis is the tops. You guys are doing great work. Your earnestness makes it all the more enjoyable. Much love from Western Massachusetts. I think it is Lloyd Wabbit. All right. Lloyd or Will. What is it? Is it Will or is it Lloyd? You signed it Lloyd, but the email says Will. Sorry. Anyway, thank you for writing in. Thank you for listening and all the kind words, and I'm glad you finally did write in. I've never read Final Crisis, so maybe that'll be what warms me up to Grant Morrison. I will say, I don't hate Grant Morrison as much as Brendan, so that's something. A lot of these...
I find Morrison to be a love it or hate it kind of a thing. Like, I'm kind of probably a 40-60 split of like to not like on the stuff that I've read of his, but the stuff of his that I do like, I really do like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guy's got talent. He's just super weird.
Yeah, that's accurate. A lot of these director pairings are pretty fun. I'm trying to think of which one. Like Jordan Peele is Justice League Dark. That's kind of interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. Edgar Wright, Young Justice, or Doom Patrol. I'm into that too.
Doom Patrol feels more to his sensibilities, but I mean, I think he can tackle whatever.
Yeah. So there's some cool ideas. Ryan Johnson, Green Lantern. I would like that.
I would probably like that too, honestly.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so what do you think about the trauma of Batman and superheroes and why we relate to it, Jamie?
To me, it just feels like they're showing that even though they are super beings or people who are of elevated stature, as in the case of Batman, it's more about money than power and, you know, the will that drives him and what have you. I think what they're showing is no matter what your circumstances, you can overcome it and rise above it. At least that's how I've always taken it. Because even though so much of this stuff is based in tragedy, be it Spider-Man's uncle, Batman's parents, Superman's planet, you know, I mean, you could just go down the list and just do this all day and night for pretty much every character. I just think it's about the perseverance and the ability to rise above it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I take it anyway.
Yeah. Brendan, any thoughts?
Hard to add more to that. I think with Batman specifically, I think it's because he's us in terms of he's the guy without the superpowers. But he can mix it with and sometimes overcome the best of them. I think that's what makes Batman very relatable. But I mean, yeah, for the rest of it, really cut and paste what Jamie said, because it's just about people being the best that they can be and fighting for what's right, which is what we all hope we could and should do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you guys, and I do think that there's I mean, there are a lot of layers to it. It's like what you said, is like it's a great story to inspire us, the audience, of that you can rise above, you know, the worst of the worst happening to you. I also think that it is a very easy way to humanize the characters and get us on their side almost immediately, because, you know, I've seen the memes going around where it's like, oh, you know, Batman, you want us to sympathize with the trust fund billionaire? And it's like, well, if it was presented that way of like, oh, this guy's got everything, you know, it would be harder for us to be like, yeah, we're on his side, you know, go corporate greed. But the fact that it's a character who had this tragic thing happen to him, and so even though he should have everything, he doesn't, because he's missing this very big part of who he is as a person, and it has motivated him to look past the material things and use those material things to then make the world a better place, to help others, to prevent this from happening to anyone else. It makes it much easier as the audience to go, hell yeah, like, and you want to be on his side and you do root for him. And it's just, I think it makes for a more well-rounded story. It's more motivating, and it's also, again, a very humanizing element for the character.
Mm-hmm. And they've toyed with different levels of that too, which, you know, that happens as writing evolves and stories evolve. But it popped up in my memories the other day about the conversation that Frank Castle and Matt Murdock had in the Daredevil show about Castle. You know, he gave Castle some crap about doing what he does, and Castle said, you know, the only difference between you and me is one bad day.
Mm-hmm.
That one just stuck out to me because it felt very powerful, and, you know, how true might that be? Mm-hmm. Something to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. One last email here is from Chris, the Objective Geek. It says, hey, Holy BatCast crew, I hope all's well. Is there any line of dialogue that you wish you could change or add to in a Batman movie? For me, it's in The Dark Knight Rises. I wish that after Batman says to Gordon, a hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat on a young boy's shoulders to let him know that the world hadn't ended, that he would follow it up with, I never did say thank you, and Gordon responds, and you'll never have to. Keep up the great work, and congrats. Thanks, Chris. All right, so any line of dialogue you would like to change or update or tweak or add to, Jamie?
Other than the entire John Blake Robin conversation?
Right.
That's immediately where my mind went. I don't know. I guess I'm just going to go with that, even though it's the obvious one that probably more than half of you are out there thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm. Brendan?
It's one I'd like to think about some more, but the first one that jumped to my mind, not that I had a problem with it, but probably the Martha thing. I don't know how you change it, but that just seemed to be a sticking point for a lot of people with that movie. So
yeah,
rework that somehow.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Actually, I think I always said the idea was there. I really liked the idea. The execution needed some massaging, and I think that's where they ran into a problem. I don't really know. Like you said, I need to think about it. Like I'm sure there's something that I'm just missing. But
I really liked that addition to the Dark Knight Rises, though. That would have been really nice.
I mean,
that example he gave.
Honestly, I say delete the first part of the hero can be anyone and just do the second part. It's probably better.
Yeah.
Because the first line, much like the Martha moment, like I love the idea, but the line is so wordy and it comes out so awkwardly in the movie that I'm like, oh, it just they needed to tighten it up. It's like the longest run-on sentence, and it's just, for me, it doesn't quite work. I love the idea, but I feel like the execution isn't quite there.
I need an extended dialogue about rubbing another man's rhubarb.
Good. Yeah, I'm sure there are answers, but none are springing to mind off the top of my head.
Spur of the moment answers are hard.
Yeah, it is, especially for something like this. And we just talked about all of them, but I'm like, I'm sure there's dialogue where I'm like, oh yeah, you could shift this, you could change this, whatever. I just none leap to mind. Sorry, Chris, but we like yours. That counts for something. All right, that's it. We're closing the Wayne Manor mailbox, guys. Thank you so much for everybody who wrote in. We do love hearing from you. We love the questions, even if they stump us. Good on you. Sorry about that. It does always help if we have time to think them over, but we appreciate the thoughts nonetheless. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send those to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. When will we get back to the mailbox? It's going to be a minute. So don't rush. Take your time if you're going to write in. Because as I said, the baby's coming in a matter of days, but there will be a new episode next week. It's just going to be a pre-recorded episode. So there's no Wayne Manor mailbox as part of that. And then after that, we're getting in the Batman. And so I will make the time one way or the other to record and review the Batman. There might be baby crying in the background. We don't know, but we're going to make it happen. So yeah, then there's the Batman, which is going to give us so much to talk about, I am sure. So when we loop back around to Batman Beyond is probably also when we'll loop back around to the Wayne Manor mailbox. So thank you guys, as always, for understanding and appreciating. But keep an eye out. And again, the good news is we prepared, and you shouldn't have to go without an episode for a little while now. But we're going to wrap this baby up. Thank you guys for joining. Jamie, thank you as always. Good to chat. Good to talk.
Word.
On this supersized episode of Holy BatCast, which should also make you want McDonald's.
The baby shower episode.
Yep. The baby bachelor party. Anyway, can't follow you on social media, but they can always tune in to Holy BatCast and hear your lovely voice.
Indeed.
Brendan, thank you as well.
Not a problem. This was a fun episode. I've been looking forward to it.
It was fun. It was a long one, guys. Thanks for hanging in. And if people aren't following you already, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the episode where they're going to follow you. So tell them how to do that.
Well, I was going to say it's a long episode, but it's still half the length of a disorder. So
that is bullshit. It is 45 minutes shy of a disorder.
You can follow me on social media at Loey007 on Twitter, and you can find me hanging around the Real Fans group. Check out my podcast, The Nightlight, which you can find on Twitter at NightlightPod, or just search for The Nightlight on Google, or thenightlight.podbean.com, or facebook.com/thenightlight. Because there'll be some stuff coming up on there, obviously regarding the Batman as well. So I'll be covering it on my show, as well as hopefully being able to join Holy BatCast, depending on time zone difference and baby availability.
Baby stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for downloading the show. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or I guess on Apple Podcasts now it's follow. You don't subscribe anymore. Now you follow. Why? I don't know. They change things. They get bored. Anyway, subscribe or follow where you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It is the quickest and easiest thing you can do to support us. Also, go to holybatcast.com or find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. The email address for the Wayne Manor mailbox, again, is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was done by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. His music can be found at gvtunes.com. And again, if you're looking for a new trimmer, if you're looking to clean up your downstairs, go to manscaped.com and use the promo code BATSCAPED. But that'll do it. On behalf of Jamie and Brendan, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Look, I've got nowhere to be. I'm happy to keep going. And just because my fear is if we don't do Wayne Manor and you have a kid in 2 days,
Who knows when we will?
And then by that time, the Batman would have been out, and knows how full that mailbox is going to be.
He raises a valid point there. So how about we take 5 and reconvene so I can recycle some of this beer?
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right.
Cool.
We'll commit. We're in it till the bitter end.
Okay.